Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the return of the Garden of Eden. We are live. And this is the 6th episode of the return of the Garden of Eden. I just want to welcome back Stacy Lyons again. And if you could hear the music in the background, Tupac Shakur. I've been guided to bring him in because he had been coming into my energy field. Because, you know, anyone that knows him, he represented a movement from back in the 90s that I can remember. And he brought forth the energy and the information through hip hop. That's right. So also I want to welcome Jen Balu. She's on the show for the first time. Yep, she's on the show for the first time. And I want to welcome her. This is a special moment, a special time. So usually I do not give disclosures. So I'm not going to give a disclosure because I just want to know that everything to do with myself, Sharon Andrea, the return of the Garden of Eden represents truth, represents what we're moving to a space of healing. So anything and everything you hear from me is raw and real and total transparency. So much information, so much downloads has been coming in. Anyone knows about everything that's happening on the planet right now is about the greater healing. And so everything I speak on, everything I talk about is where I'm being guided and led to with the truth. So if anyone doesn't know me, I'm doing an audiobook for the planet called The Return of the Garden of Eden. This book is based on segments to do it, not only my own twin soul journey and path, but it also has to do with everything that we have collected in data for humanity and about humanity, ourselves, and all the galaxies, all time and dimensions, okay? And so this book itself is an audiobook because it's based on bringing together the information that comes through from also the feminine principle, the voice that has not been heard. The highest vibration is physical contact. The next level of communication is through the voice, because a lot of things have been written throughout time that has brought in everything from everyone's perspective and how we receive information, and how perfect that we are in the North Node of Gemini, which represents the mental space, the brain, and communication. So each one of us are going through healing within ourselves on so many layers, and deeper and higher and deeper. And so I know that one of my purposes is to bring all the information together collectively. And that means that we're going to honor each other in this space that I have created, because my higher soul and also the oversoul, which is the 717, 777. If you resonate with that, that is the frequency, the code, the number sequential code that represents us and how we're bringing ourselves back together again to true love. But to come back to true love, we got to go deep, and we're going to dig and dig. So for me, anyone who doesn't know me, that I'm an empath, I'm clairvoyant, clairaudient. I have the ability to read the energy. It has nothing to do with whether I am psychic. This is beyond psychic. This is where I'm able to collect the data, bring it all together in so many pieces and so many forms, so that way it can make sense for everyone and for all those who are also connecting to others on their path into understanding it. So the elephant is in the room everywhere. The elephant, it is huge, it is big, it is gigantic. So today's show is going to be based on many topics, many things that we're going to discuss. And one of the biggest things we're going to discuss is everything to do with what's showing up in our reality, to do with George Floyd, and also how does it apply to us, and why is it important to discuss not only George Floyd and the stories that have existed throughout time, and how it plays a part in our ascension. For those who are on the twin soul path, I'm going to share information for you to understand how it makes sense for you and where you can apply it, And this is where you're ready to face the triggers, because today's going to be another triggering time. I know there's some who have heard my voice, seen my post, and there's going to be triggers and more triggers and more triggers. So if you're triggered, that's wonderful, because that shows that something is moving through your cells of anything that's been attached to experiences that you have had so you can move forward and ascend through that process, okay? So when it comes to attaining wisdom and understanding, that means that you're educating yourself. You're also feeling into what there is for you to heal, understand it, and put those pieces together, so you are able to move forward. And that is one of the reasons why we are all gathered here collectively. Okay, so Stacy is going to pick up off from where she discussed to do with her path. If any of you remember, Stacy is on a twin soul path, and with her path, her twin, I had read for her and I connected with her. It was sometime last year, I believe, right, Stacey? Was it
Yeah, it was last August.
Okay, it was last year. And so when I was communicating with her, her twin was in the physical realm, and he transitioned recently this year, and he came to me in my bedroom, and I was communicating with him, to her, through her and him, with profound messages. So when I came off of the last live that I did with Stacy, interestingly, she said to me, Sharon, I have something that I didn't realize. And she went back and found, because she's been recording all the sessions from ever since that I had been reading for her. And in the last session, I think it was December, not the last session, excuse me, this session that I had with her in December, everything happened exactly to what happened, just to show what happened to do with his transition and what it means for the collective planetary. Because whenever you are outside of your body, you're able to tap into some outer realities, and also to bring information into the physical realm. So this ascension time is where we're not only connecting to all the information that's within ourselves in the physical body, but also everything that we've collected throughout timelines, which I also prefer to use that word instead of past lives, okay? Because timelines means that it's still existing, because you're still operating from that same principle of what occurred during other time frames. And I want you to know that I'm going to take it higher first. Remember, we caused ourselves to forget everything so we can come back to awakening to our true selves. And that means that we peel back the layers. Everyone on here, anyone who hears this, whether before, during, or after, you picked the topics, you picked the body, you picked the color of your skin, you picked your personality, who you are. It's all you, okay? And each person that incarnates have chosen the layers and the spectrum of what they choose to experience. If you are on a twin soul path, whatever you're experiencing as who you are and what you're shifting through, your beloved, whoever it is that mirrors you, is doing the same thing. And it may not show up the same way, but it is still happening. It is still occurring at the same time, okay? So just know that everything that we're going to talk about today is going to be based on 3D, 4D, 5D, 10D, 20, 40, whichever way you want to take it, because we're moving through what? Layers, layers, layers. And it is all still based on the principles of where you are in consciousness. If anything you hear me talk about, I'm also going to have Jen, she's going to introduce herself, and everything's moving according to how Spirit has this flow moving through, and she's going to share her personal journey to what she's experienced. She's also on a twin soul path. She's a doula. When I met Jen, I met her I think it was 5 years ago, right? 2015, because the time flies so fast. And when
2016, I think.
2016, okay, because everything's just speeding up so quickly. And Jen and I, when I think of Jen, of all the communication that we had back then, it was a lot of scientific connections and things that we would talk about. And we even had to break down layers of other things that were representing the false light back then, I remember. Oh, yeah. And so we did compare a lot of notes then and all that stuff. And after a while, we kind of drifted away from each other. It wasn't anything on purpose. That's just the way our Spirit does it. Whoever's meant to leave at whatever time, they may leave and come back. Some of you might be out of something that's ending with karmic energy. And sometimes it's just the time that we need to recoup and regroup ourselves. Let go of the need to feel that you must stick with someone, even if it's a family member, if they don't understand your path. I know it's a difficult thing to do because that is what your brain is programmed into thinking. I need someone, I need something to validate my path. I need something to validate what is happening around me. This is the time that Source Creator is creating for you to keep moving and coming back within. All the stuff that's out there, YouTube, videos, everything. So a lot of information is coming in, going out, coming in, going out. And this is your practice in what you're doing differently, because the South Node is in Sagittarius. What are you doing differently? How are you receiving the information? What are your perspectives of the information? How does it apply for you? How are you able to filter through it and still be in your power? You're not disempowering yourself because you're listening to what somebody else says, and you're in a different layer of that consciousness. And how you perceive it and how you process it, this is where you stay in that layer until you ascend out of it and say, how does it serve me now? Where am I taking myself differently now so I can move to another layer of consciousness where I am detached from what I've seen or heard and felt, and I'm applying something differently in my life as I move towards my North Node, okay? Because if you're still doing the same thing, responding the same way, over and 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 over again, guess what? You're going to still get the same results because you're choosing not to move out of that old shit. Because that's what it is. It's old shit. And I say old shit because that's how spirit shows it to me. It's just like when the body's taking in food, after a while, when it goes through your intestine, it turns to shit, and it no longer serves you. So it has to leave out of the body. It has to leave out of the body. And some of the stuff that we still have within us is tied to the genetics. It's tied to your DNA. You have the spiritual DNA, you have the physical DNA. The spiritual DNA has to do with the programming and everything that has been connected to you and your ancestors, your lineage. Those programming and belief systems is what's tied to everything that's happening right now in the collective. So even if you want to look and say, oh, that's not my problem, because guess what? It's everybody's problem. It's everybody's situation. And the reason is because we have played out these versions of everything in every layer, from rioting to protesting to speaking up to not speaking up. The time that you may have not spoken up, this is your time to speak up. It may have been where your beloved had spoken up in the past and you didn't. You may have witnessed something that you just turned a blind eye and you didn't speak up. Now is the opportunity, because this is what your soul is getting you to that point where it's time to speak out. Speaking out is what brings in and shifts the reality of what you've been experiencing, so that way you are collapsing that old timeline that no longer comes in as a fragmentation of your soul, because your soul has fragmented throughout millenniums and timelines. And that fragmentation itself is why sometimes you feel lost, why sometimes something doesn't feel right for you anymore, because something's missing. It's because you were not able to pick up the pieces to who you are and what it is that has affected you, and understand the deeper meaning of it and how you're able to have the ability to move forward. The more you educate yourself, the more you apply that wisdom to the information, to where you're getting it from, okay? And if it's coming at you, it's not because of that person. It's because that person is triggering something in you that has been a fragment, if it affects you deeply, that you are not looking at, that you're not paying attention to, that you are sifting it someplace else and covering it up and looking externally all the time. And we have to always keep bringing it back in over and over again. Bring it in, bring it in. Look inward, always keep looking inward. Bring yourself into a quiet space. Quiet space could be anywhere. It could be even if you're around people. It could be in your own bedroom, your bathroom. It could be outside. It could be anywhere. And always allow that energy, that part of you that's connected. You see, because many people walk on this earth that are completely disconnected. And then you're getting information from those disconnected fragments of the source light or false light. And then you think it's good for you, or you think that it's giving you something. And the reason why you're going to feel that way is because you're at that level of consciousness with where you were before, and that's why it feels right at that moment. You see? But if the one thing I will tell anyone, if ever you have felt something good at the moment, and then after a while it changes, that's a signal. That means it's no longer serving you, and that means that it's time to shift your focus into, what is my soul saying to me? What is the voice within me that's connected to source saying to me that I now make a new choice? That I move towards the direction to where my soul is leading me for my highest good. That even if my highest good means that I am now terminating my connection or whatever it is with someone else, that I know that it is best for me now, because I'm bringing myself back to from all of those fragmented pieces. See? So, and therefore it becomes sacred for you. It can't be sacred for you if you're still attaching to all the other entities of people or anything else, because we really are in a spiritual warfare. And it's not where we're out. It may look like outwardly we're in a battlefield, right? No knives, no guns, and all that stuff, but it's an internal battle. And it's because we're moving through this deeper layer that's within the subconscious, conscious part of self. And it has to do with the layers of things that have been created in the fragments of separation. And again, it may look like it has nothing to do with you, but it has everything to do with you. Every single living being on this planet that is walking, no matter how much type of food you take for your health and all the other stuff you do and walks and baths, if you do not face those wounds, you are still in the same place you were from the time that you awakened. Okay? And it's a fact. This journey is something that you have to take responsibility for what these wounds are. Okay? Saying that I'm healed now is not really the truth, because it's a process. It's an ongoing process. You see? And even for myself, when I find myself saying, oh, I feel so good today, and then all of a sudden something else comes in my space, and then I go right back into something I have to look at for myself that connects me to each and every person that's interacting with me, and I have to honor myself. So anyway, I just wanted to start out with that, what I was saying. I want to turn over for Stacy to start speaking before we go to Jen. I know she has a lot of things to share. Stacy herself, with her journey, her divine masculine was a man of color. And he, again, gave me such an opportunity to see even something greater in that, the connection to what we cannot see. Okay, but it is so real. It is so real. It is just as real as me looking at Stacy and Jen right now. And he is here right now anyway. His presence is here. So I'm going to have Stacy talk about some things. She has taken some notes of stuff that she wants to share, and I will, of course, interact back and forth with anything that flows through for us to look at, to add to it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you again, Sharon, for this opportunity. So for myself and my twin, I really felt like we lived through every single lifetime we've ever had with each other, and just this last lifetime that we had. And really part of when I first connected with Sharon, I was on Keen, and it was just so, every part of it was amazing, and it helped me to go deep within myself. In this process, we have had a lot of lifetimes where in our connection, there was always situations where either we were an interracial couple and society didn't like that, and we couldn't necessarily be together the way that we wanted to. Maybe we were different classes. There were some where he was of the upper class, I was of the lower class, things like that. And then there were also situations where it was always very secretive when we had to come together. And there were many lifetimes too where being together, primarily for me, that being he was punished for being with me. And so there was a dynamic of also fearing to come too close for harm. But then there was also a fear of losing each other, because we had experienced that over and over in many different lifetimes with each other. So in the beginning of the process, for myself, I was trying to really, and I'm not proud of it, but I was almost treating God like a babysitter. Like I had everything under control, and when I was going to sleep, I would turn it over to Source Creator and say, "Okay, now it's your turn. You kind of handle it." And through the process, because I had primarily grown up Catholic, and so I referred to Source Creator as primarily like the Father God, and I wasn't fully awakened to the Mother God within myself or in general. So in the beginning of the process, I could hear him kind of bringing me through trust exercises as to trusting myself. And he would say, I'm going to need you to trust me, Stacy, and trust yourself. Trust me, trust you. And going through months and months of trust exercises. And it was really such an incredible journey that brought me back to myself and brought me back to see what I was capable of and how strong I was, and my feminine energy within me that there were lifetimes where I had a lot of strength, a lot of power, and I'll say in one lifetime, I was Queen Hatshepsut, if anybody is familiar with that, in Egypt. And she had to dress as a man in order to kind of be in that power, and being in that power, and then she was erased from history. So there was always this element of being afraid to stand in my power, and being afraid that I was going to be penalized for it, or something bad was going to happen for it, or just completely overlooked. And it just got so suppressed within me of what it meant to be in my feminine energy. And myself and my twin, we also, which I think in a lot of twin dynamics, you tend to switch places periodically and switch between who has the more masculine and who has the most feminine within it too. And so we had worked through to balance out that that masculine feminine, like I think a lot of people can do. And then there were just like lifetimes of, there was also situations where trusting him to show up, and show up to not necessarily save me, but just show up for the relationship too. And I in regards to other twins that I have known in my own practice, I think that's something that as divine feminine, we can create a doubt in our mind, like, are our sacred masculine really going to show up? And at least that's what I have found. And I really think that part of it was also about having the faith and the trust in them, because I was in such a place of feeling like I had to do it all by myself, because in so many lifetimes I was all by myself, that I liked the control, and I had to learn to release the control, but then also realize that I wasn't in it by myself. And I am so thankful that I had Sharon too, where I could, call her up and work through things that I was going through, because it is very, very layered. And I'm thankful that with me, I really didn't have a chance to kind of sit back. Like the divine just kept pushing me forward. And I got to the point where I was getting so many downloads from God and Source Creator that I called it like a mind orgasm, because it was just so much information coming at me over and over and over again. And I would say, okay, like, give me some time to process. And then like 5 minutes, and then like, boom. It's like, oh my God. So there was just a lot of that. And then we also worked through in our connection we had primarily for me, right after we met, within like 6 months, I ended up in the hospital and I had a ton of health issues that I was working through. So then we had all this stuff about clearing also ancestral healing within our connection too. So, and we held a lot in our mental energy. And I don't think that people, to Sharon's point about those recycled programmings that are running in the background, we had so much that we carried in the mental state that it was just over and over and over, that it was like we were recycling patterns and loops and old energy just time after time after time. And we were holding it all in our minds. And it was like the fear. And it also was a fear of opening and allowing. So for me, part of the process is, as soon as because I did get to the point, I don't know if anybody has ever been in what I would call, it wasn't even like an argument, but like a back and forth with Source Creator. You're not going to win. And so I finally kind of gave in and surrendered. And then that next morning, all of my health issues seemed to like just disappear. And it was just fascinating how I was holding on to the control because I was also afraid, and I was identifying with the health issues. So who was I going to be once these things got better? And once it got to the point where I was so concerned about him and putting all my effort into trying to heal him and fix the situation. And I would say things like, give me the pain, give me the struggle, let me feel it, and him just benefit from it, which I know is not the appropriate way to do that either. But I was trying to take it all so he didn't have to go through it. But it really brought me to a place for me to stand in my power with it, because there were many lifetimes that it was like people couldn't know about us. People couldn't know about our connection. And it had to be kept very secret in whatever capacity that was. And I know, I'm laughing because in most of the lifetimes, it was me that didn't speak up. And we had kind of switched in this particular lifetime. And I had said, give me everything and I'll take it and I'll fix it. So now I feel like we are switching back. So it is on me to speak up and use my voice about it. And I just kind of laugh a little bit because sometimes you have to be careful what you ask for when you're talking and praying. But in other lifetimes, and I know that a lot of people, because when I realized it and it was placed in me, it was brought to my attention that a lot of people feel this way. And so, and I'm not trying to take it away from anybody else that resonates with this. But I know it, like Sharon says, I know what I know. And when I say I know, I always like to reiterate the KNOW, because I don't want the universal powers to think I'm talking about the NO. I'm talking about the KNOW here. But for myself, even as Queen Hatshepsut, on the opposite end of that, I very much resonate and know that in some aspect of time and space, that I was Mary Magdalene. And so there was this being in full power and then being very much suppressed and being portrayed a certain way. And just, for me, it was like the feminine energy there was so much trauma in the feminine energy that it really took digging and digging and digging and going through lifetime after lifetime after lifetime and really standing and learning how to be in my full power, because that was so challenging for me and really pushing me to the point of stepping outside of my comfort zone and really putting myself out there and doing things. Like, if people knew me through the process of what him and I had been going through when he was going through his own health issues, I mean, in my own health process, I never asked anybody for help because I didn't want that. And with him, it was like I didn't even hesitate to ask people, even people I didn't know, to help. And people did. And the reaching out and doing all these things. And so I now realize that all of those things that I was doing, yes, I should have done them for myself, but it was more so for me to see what I was capable of and for me to awaken within myself my full power, my full strength. And what does that look like? And then realizing, because I had a hard time for a while viewing us as separate, which anybody on the twin path, you're not separate from your partner. And it took me a long time to get there. And it took me him transitioning to really realize that we aren't separate. And all the illusion of being separate, that's just it. It's illusion. Nobody can stop that, and nobody can take that away from you. And as part of me in my process was about coming to terms with the fact that I was worthy of my relationship. I was worthy of love. I was worthy of having love in my life. I was worthy of it, and I was deserving of it, because we all have lifetimes of pain and suffering. And there's a lot of, at least I have found that there's a lot of twins that also struggle with abandonment issues, worthiness issues. And as twins, it's so interesting that we sign up for these things to learn, right? We sign up for our soul to process through all of these things and to learn these things. And it's really such a fascinating information. I don't know why they're going to make me tell this story, but I guess to give an example of a trust exercise, because I also have the ability to hear spirit too. And when I was going through the process of it, sometimes I would feel like I was a dog, and spirit would be, and God would be like, okay, time for your walk, or time to eat, or time to drink, or time to do this. So I'd go for these walks. And one time I got stuck in the rain, and my neighbor was nice enough to pull over and ask me if I wanted to ride back to my house. And I was standing under a tree, and it was pouring, and God said, no, just wait. And so I was like, okay. So I said to him, no, it's okay, I'm just going to wait. And he was like, are you sure? And I said, yep. And he's like, I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. And God was like, just wait, Stacy, don't go, just wait. Trust me. I was like, okay. So I waited, and about 5 minutes later, the rain stopped and I got to walk back. But sometimes in this process, you might do things that don't make sense to you at the time, or that make you look really crazy. And I guess I feel the need to tell people to trust that, because no matter how crazy you may appear, at the beginning and the end of every day, for me, I report to God. So if you are following your heart and standing in your truth and trusting your intuition, and knowing what you know, I think that's part of everything that we can do to live on our purpose at the same time. So, and then on a deeper level, because I had been working with an ancestral healer, and after my partner had transitioned, I had also learned that within my ancestral,
Stacy, when he transitioned, and the significance, because you mentioned that you are the essence reincarnation of Mary Magdalene. Because I know sometimes some people, it kind of wiggles in just a little bit, and then it's like, yeah, right, sure. Mm-hmm. Because I want everyone to know that after the show, the last show that we did, I was guided by Warren, that's his name, to ask Stacy what was his birthday, what was his age, and what was the date that he transitioned. And he happened to have transitioned 4 days before Good Friday. And I was like, oh my God. And it hit me like a ton of bricks of the significance of the date that he transitioned. And there were several people that contacted me that they were feeling something from Warren's energy, even though you can't physically see him, he is here. And all of our, whoever's connected, or however you're connected to your divine masculine, always know that they're here with you. And that the feeling of, oh, it's just me, it is not just you. So we're healing on such, I call it, I'm hearing subatomic levels. And the significance of that date that he transitioned is what Stacy is going to also share with you, from what was recorded before it happened, and how she described how he felt free, because he was free. And so we are freeing ourselves while we're in the body. So what happened is Stacy and Warren were in that same timeline with how Yeshua, not transitioned the same way, but it was something that was taken in the mental space, right? And how we can free ourselves from the way we were taught from our families, and really feeling that inner freedom because of all the chaos that we have accumulated from that cellular memory that you are walking with right now, still, or sitting down. Okay. So I had to bring in that, so that way you understand even more, because what happens is that it's easier that we look at things physically first, and all the spiritual stuff like, oh yeah, whatever. Nope, it's not real. Well, guess what? The energy is in motion first. This is what's happening. The energy is there. It's there. It's happening. It's now. It's within us and it's outside of us. And it's to be able to understand how we interpret that matter, the spiritual matter and the physical matter, for it to make sense, so you're not constantly caught up in the loop. Okay, so I just wanted to say that. Greetings, everyone. I'm not ignoring you. I'm so in gratitude for everyone who's on here. And just know that I will have a time where we're going to be able to ask questions and go deeper into other things as well. So go ahead, Stacey.
It's okay. Yeah. And thank you. Thank you for making me go deeper with that instead of just letting it slide by.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Because part of this process for me too is I'm still learning. Like I said, we had a lot of times where we just couldn't talk about it, and so I am working through those, knowing and trusting that it's okay to speak about it, that it's not going to, because I know that nobody's going to take that away from me.
Exactly.
So, but I forgot what I was going to say.
That took you away, right?
The process. You brought it back to me, but it was April 6th. So it was during Holy Week in that process. And it was just, because I'm a healer too. And so it was, for me, it was so profound, because it was like we were healing our soul during this process. And even things that I'm not, I do remember I was going with this, that I'm not proud of. It's so connected to our ancestral lineage, because I've been working with this ancestral healer. And shortly after that, in my ancestral lineage, I had agreed, because we agreed to carry things in our ancestral lineage and heal that for our ancestral line. And so I had agreed to lose 2 partners, because my ancestral lineage, I carried that with me. And prior to meeting Warren, there was a gentleman that, even though we never dated, but he was definitely like a soulmate energy, and we definitely had past life stuff together. And it was always kind of like where we just knew, like, if we ever wanted to, like, we could be together. And he ended up, he played professional football, and he murdered his girlfriend and then took his own life. And that was a pinnacle point for me, that in that moment I had, prior to, his name was Javon, and prior to Javon passing, I had shut off my gift, and I knew that they were there, and I had shut them off. And because of his passing, that moment made me want to turn everything back on, because I knew that there was something more, and I couldn't take, like, not talking to him. And so that moment was what caused me to turn on my gifts. And then I had also told him that he was now responsible for finding me a good man. And then shortly after that, that's when I met Warren. But so I had signed up to lose 2 partners in my ancestral healing. And all this everything from my health issues to even patterns in relationships that play out that I don't think we realize is associated with our ancestral lineage and what we heal on an ancestral level when we do this inner work. And I know a lot of people have been reaching out to me too and saying, like, they just want to heal the entire world, which right now the whole world is healing. And in the healing process, I have found that you're going to get imprints as to what you need to work on. And if you don't pay attention, they're going to come harder and they're going to come faster for you. And if need be, you're going to get knocked on your ass until you stop and look at what you have to do. And so right now, it's like all of humanity is being knocked on their ass to say, you have to look at this, look at it. And so, and starting within yourself and starting within clearing it from your ancestral lineage at the same time is a really powerful thing to be doing right now. And it's something that all of us need to be doing. Because, I mean, I even had to look at, like I had mentioned in the last episode, that within my ancestral lineage, there was a lot of prejudice there. But going deeper in it, I also have African American ancestry in my lineage too, that people were just unaware of because of how far it went. And so even overlooking where it is in your own ancestry, because like Sharon has said many times, which is absolutely true, if you go back deep enough in your ancestral lineage, you will find that you come from African American descent at the origin of that. And so realizing that within your own ancestry, because you end up it's like you just end up hating yourself and you're just going in this cycle of 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 low vibrational stuff, heavy stuff that you don't need to carry anymore, and freeing yourself from that. But I feel like right now would be a good time to play the audio. It's about 5 minutes. Is that okay with you, Sharon?
Yes,
Do you have
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. I think I'm gonna
You have it on a
yeah, I have it on my iPad.
The fourth month of the year. Okay, I'm hearing April very strongly with a healing that comes forward with him. And when I say healing, meaning that I don't know if he's had pain or any of that stuff, but it's like I feel like he feels like a brand new person. He feels like I'm in like I feel him feeling stronger and freer and look at me. Yeah. Okay. I feel he's in like he feels lighter. Okay. And when I say lighter, I mean I don't feel this heavy energy around him. Okay. I don't know if it means that he's not in the same physical space or not, but I do get a sense of movement around him. I do feel like as if he's going to be pushed to move into another location and out from where he's at. I feel like where he is now, that's just a temporary space. They're not making me feel like that's a permanent space. So it's like, but April seems very strong with something with him. But more like this well-being. Okay, like just giving me this, like I'm feeling this energy of I feel good inside. I feel whole. I feel healed in my mind, right? I feel a sense of freedom. So when I feel into him, because I have the ability to go into the future, so how you're feeling inside, and also how your physical body feels, and it's like he's in his sovereignty, he's in his own space, he's feeling good. It's like spring, you know? Like a spring, I'm in the newness. I feel free. That's the best way I can describe this. I feel free. It's funny because when you asked that question, and I saw the number 4, I saw him in white. I saw him in white clothes. Like a white top and a white bottom. Very, very interesting.
Do you think that that's when we could be going through our ascension?
Say again?
think that April or whatever that 4 is when we're going through our ascension?
No, you're going through the ascension now.
Okay.
You're going through the ascension now. When I see April, it's more like I feel him feeling different.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel him feeling like how he feels now. I see him looking different. Okay, so how they're showing me again is that he's going through that transformation. And like now, he's going through the transformation now, but more like in a deeper sense.
Yeah.
And so they're showing me like he's a brand new person. Like he's moving through. It's very interesting to know what is transiting in April with him. Really, really interesting. The reason I say that because it's like it's going to kind of give you an idea of what part of himself is showing up in this new version. You know, whatever he's leaving behind, whatever is moving towards that north node for him, because I feel like he's moving from the south node for himself, like him individually I'm looking at. And so it's like when I see him, it's almost like when I see someone in white, it's like this is a fresh new start, this is a fresh new beginning.
Yeah.
This is a new me. Like when I feel him now, it's like someone that's a little bit hunched over and still healing, still processing, still becoming, working through pain, emotional pain, and also letting go, because I feel there's a part of him to do a lot of letting go. And so now it's like when I see him a little further out, it's like I'm a brand new person. I'm free. I don't have any of these things holding me down anymore. Okay, and it doesn't feel like a back and forth thing with him. It feels like a stability, like I'm more stable. And you know, it's giving me.
And that was, I just want to plug this back in here so you're able to hear me. But
And there was also, that was from our reading on the winter solstice. And earlier ones, because in the last reading we had in April, you had advised me to go back and listen to all of them too. And there was, I think it was one that we had in March, or it was in February, and you had also mentioned about having a mountain view of the situation, and that was something that you had brought up again when we spoke in April with that. So, you know, it's just really, it's really interesting.
It's interesting when I went back, because I know when you played it the last time, you know, and I heard, I was like, oh my God, wow, I said that, because I don't remember whenever I'm reading for anyone or I'm reading or talking to anyone, it's not me in the physical, it's that higher part of me and connecting to source creator. And if you heard when I said that there was transformation happening to do with his mind, if you want to share how he transitioned, because if you feel comfortable with that, because the reason why I say that, because it'll correlate. So this is how you know what you're healing in your physical body that is connected to the energy that you're still carrying, that you may have carried from previous timelines, past timelines, that carries over here. And I also remember when I told Stacy something that related to her childhood in relation to her mind that connected to Warren. So for anyone who says, what's going on with my twin? What's going on with my twin? What's going on with you? Yeah. Bring it back to yourself always. Even if it looks like that person does more than what you think, again, go inward and ask yourself, ask source creator, talk to your higher self. What am I reflecting? What is mirroring to me, coming through from me to whoever I'm connected to? that is showing up for healing. And remember, the healing is in layers and layers and layers and layers. The layers go deeper and deeper. That's what that spiral is, what I spoke about before. Okay. And right now, again, the North Node is in Gemini, and it has to do with seeing things from, you know, two perspectives, multiple perspectives. It also has to do with the perspective of how you may have thought about something in other timelines. And, you know, you're switching over to the other side, and you're having the experience of what it's like to have it on the other side of the spectrum. And then you're switching places with your twin, where your twin is going to experience it from that perspective. You're also experiencing the perspective, excuse me, in a female body. You're experiencing the perspective in a male body. You're experiencing the perspective as a Black person, as a white person, as a child. I want you to see why, because when I wake up every day, I'm hearing all these voices, and I'm hearing all these, because the empathic rate for me is so high. So it's like I'm channeling all these voices that are saying, this is how I feel, this is what's happening, this is what's going on. When you do not express how you feel, what happens is it manifests into something, into the physical, because the matter itself is something you cannot see. And the reason why it's so important, why I'm emphatic about this, is because I want you to know where the deep wound comes in the collective consciousness, when it comes to racism, when it comes to indifferences, when it comes to the dishonoring of the self, how the hatred that comes to racism is also within you. There is something called self-hatred that perpetuates and shows outside of you, that you receive the racism back to yourself, that reflects back to that person of their own self-hatred. It goes in a loop from you to them and them to you. You see, that is how it occurs. Now, today is the 6/6. It's a portal. And if anyone knows that the number 6/6 has always been a frightening number throughout humanity, what was written in scriptures is if you're supposed to be in so much fear, ooh, the boogeyman, oh, it's so scary, oh, something's out to get me. And I'm just bringing it in that forum because how we look at something in the dark, because there's different spectrums of darkness here, okay, is how it's interpreted, what is taught, how it has been passed on from generation to generation. And when you are in that space of ignorance, it's because you're taking in something you were taught, but you didn't take the time to investigate where did it come from. You didn't take the time to educate yourself on where it came from. If someone who is in a lighter complexion says, I have African American, or I have black in me, go research to find out why. Instead of asking the person, why are you saying that, and get into the ignorance, because every single person, physical being, was black in the beginning of time. Mother Earth is black. The cosmic mother is black. Black, blackity, black, 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 black. There is something that works in the element of dark matter. Then you have the darkness, and then you have the dark forces, and so all of that stuff creates all these little boogie monsters running all over the place. Oh, I'm afraid to go to the dark. What if I told you right now it's dark outside? And usually most of us are scared to go out in the dark because it's dark outside. I can't see. But there's something called having a spiritual vision. And that spiritual vision means that you have the ability to see in the dark. You have the ability to understand yourself in who you are from creation, and how it relates to dark matter, and where the sacred feminine is the one who goes into the dark matter, because her divine masculine or divine feminine, because it could be and it doesn't have to necessarily be tied to a physical male person, but majority is in the male body, okay, as far as the masculine energy holds the dark matter. And it is for the divine feminine to raise her vibration. She must raise her vibration to be able to have the ability to go into the darkness and interpret that matter, because everything in the dark matter is fragmented. And in those fragmented pieces is what we bring together. When you know that story of the goddess Aset, also known as Isis, she had to bring all the pieces together. But we may have thought that it was really Asar, that the pieces were fragmented. But guess what? It was also the sacred feminine was fragmented. And then all those fragmented pieces attached to what? The shadow. And the shadow is what he had been attracted to, okay, because we fell in dimensions, in consciousness. It's all about consciousness. And that consciousness itself is playing out in the fragmented pieces throughout lifetime to how we were trying to close up that loop when it comes to the racism. There are different layers to the racism, different layers. I don't know if any one of you out here who are either in of a Black family, you could be mixed in a Black family and you have faced racism, experienced racism. And that layer itself can come from where you're the darker one in the family. I've had this in my own family with even one of my sons felt bad because he was darker than my other children that were a little lighter skinned. And it exists also within Black families where one is treated less than the other because of the color of their skin. And then some of you may have family members where you are the one that's white and then you have siblings that are Black. The list can go on. You could be a white mother that has a Black child and have faced racism. And some of that racism goes back into time of where the white supremacy is what was created. And within that creation of white supremacy is what has brought in the indifferences in one feeling that one race is more superior than the other. And it transcends into layers. We chose to experience different sides of the spectrum when it comes to racism. And know that the racism itself was created for us to remember to come back to ourselves and our power. So everything that fragmented through history and her story of racism is what had been broken down in the layers, okay, of how we feel inside. And usually it extends to someone who's being bullied, someone who's not treated fairly, someone who's told, well, if you're this color or that, or you don't look good, or if you're Black and have big lips and all that stuff, you're ugly, or feeling that you're not good enough, you're not feeling good. Your hair is not straight enough. It's too coarse. It's too kinky. Oh, you're too pale. Oh, you're not Black enough, so you don't need to come over here. And labeling it based on the color of the skin. And so the soul has no colors. The soul is a frequency, it's an energy of who you are. But we do take on aspects of the soul, takes on what we call the DNA. The spiritual DNA is what takes on what's within you to who you are from the past and the present. And we chose to embody ourselves through all the different sides of the spectrum. So for one to say that racism doesn't exist, I say that you are being ignorant. Ignorance is bliss, because it is there. To say that all lives matter is more significant than the importance of all Black lives matter is saying that you're being ignorant again, because we have to look at how things have occurred on all sides of the spectrum. And this is the heaviness of where it is when it comes to all Black lives. And anyone who feels that it's not important, remember again, even if you are of a lighter complexion, you are still Black. You are connected to the Black. I don't care if it's 1%, 2%. You could have 20 family members that is all lighter skin. It still goes back to the original aspect of who you are. And one of the things that was led to me from Spirit, because 666 represents the human DNA. It also represents family. You know, because most people don't even talk about that. They just want to put it in the fear bracket. 666 represents also the chemical component of the human body. So look it up and see what it means. I'm sure you all went to school and you went in chemistry, but some of the things that what you're hearing on here today, you're not going to find it on the internet. You're not going to find it in a book, because everything is coming through in the now is where a source is taking me. And what we're moving back into is the raw element of who we are, the raw element from when we were from the beginning of creation, which goes back in many other creations. It wasn't just one cycle of creation, okay? And so when we go back to the rawness, think about when you're making a cake and you have all these ingredients, and each ingredient itself is something that may have started from something raw from the beginning. The raw energy of everything that's created started from the dark matter, okay? And there's so many different layers to explaining the dark matter and understanding it and how you connect to it. and also knowing that the information and the light comes through the dark matter. That's where the information comes through. That's where the knowledge comes through. That is how we're able to navigate ourselves and how we connect to Source Creator through the dark matter, the masculine principle. The feminine principle brings forth the light in herself, and she connects to her light body in order to interpret the information. You see what I'm saying? That's how it works. So everything and anything begins in the raw energy. And when it merges and bringing it together, it creates something else, okay? We create a new element. And during the course of the ascension means that everything that you've accumulated within your cellular memory, your body is also consciousness, because your body takes on the energy of thoughts, feelings, what's passed on through the mother's womb. The pain and the anger is passed through the womb space. So you might even just be born in anger and be angry. And the anger itself is also misinterpreted, because a lot of stuff that's out there in the spiritual community is that, oh, you got to be just in love and light. Just be in love and light. Oh, there's too much going on out there. We can't be really all into all this now. You know, we need to get back to it. No, get into it instead of saying I'm getting back to it. Come back to it. The more you start to move away from it and shuffle it under the rug and shift away from it, is the more it's going to penetrate and show up in your reality. If anyone remembers when I said about a month ago that I had my phone called Rondi. And when I felt in the energy field, when it called him, I felt the anger. And then I was like, oh man, he's, you know, feels angry and stuff like that. And I had to go into my space of being angry, because he was angry because of how I was treated. I was angry because of how I felt treated. And so throughout millenniums, we have carried the feelings within us of how we have felt coming from each other and people. And one of the biggest things that I realized was that had been a block with many of us is the hatred and the racism and the jealousy and stuff that we were not able to speak on and to express, you see, because especially also with the feminine, we were not able to speak up as much. And like Stacy said, we had to be in disguise. And I remember myself doing that too as well. I sure did. And so the thing is that through the parts of ourselves that right now during this ascension time is to honor the anger. The anger itself and the speaking up and speaking louder is what is transmuting those timelines of where you were not able to express yourself, not able to connect to the true natural raw energy of who you are in spirit. Your spirit body is the etheric aspect of you that connects to your twin, that connects to others, and how we relate to each other and understand each other from all sides of the spectrum. If you only want to see it on one side of the spectrum and saying that it's not your problem, that it doesn't matter, that is where you're placing yourself in ignorance. And ignorance is just basically saying, I don't choose to understand myself because it still has to do with you. I don't choose to educate myself because it still has to do with you. And it relates to you, and it relates to all the generations that are behind us and in front of us, because everything that you are honoring to complete that circle is what will actually create that transformation. And it also changes the course of what you've accumulated to go back to the natural DNA of who you are. And that means that you're turning that lead, that heaviness that has transformed into the physical human body, which is the 666. And we're moving into the spectrum now of transforming the self alchemically. So if you heard and remembered from the recording Stacy played, that what I had picked up on and spoken out into energy, what was coming through for Warren was that he, obviously, I didn't know it meant he was going to be going through a transformation as far as transitioning, but he was free. He was free because whatever he was holding in his mind, whatever he was holding in the thought process, whatever he was holding within his DNA, that was coming into a space of him transforming. And that transformation took place once he was released from the physical body. Not everyone is going to go through their transformation by being released through the physical body. You're releasing it in your body, which can feel heavy, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to feel like you're feeling it all in your solar plexus. It goes deep. It goes deep into the not only the solar plexus, but also you feel activity in your throat. Your head is also affected, and all because it has to do with energy that has to move through the spectrum of releasing it. But before you release it, understand it first, because I feel that that's one of the reasons why there's more of the chaos, because of not one side is not understanding the other side to where it comes from. So when I think about the spectrum of those who are protesting, is because they're bringing in the energy again that I must protest, I must speak my voice, I must be heard to how I felt, because it keeps going on, and therefore I have a right to express myself and bring it together collectively in love. And that anything else portraying outside of it to make it look like I'm creating controversy, again, it represents that other side of the spectrum that is choosing not to understand why the protests are taking place. Then you have the ones who are rioting. The ones who are rioting on that side of the spectrum are the ones that are coming through from the ancestors, from everything that has been held in the consciousness. I want you to understand that the consciousness that is on the planet right now, that's in pain, is not just you. It is not just your physical body. It is also those who have been on the earth before that have not gone to the other side. They have not gone to the other side because they're still in pain because of something that's happened to them. And maybe some who have been killed and they didn't even know why they were killed. And they're still, because when you leave out of your body, you're still holding that same feeling, thought pattern, beliefs within yourself. It still exists. If you leave out of your body, you're still you. Some people have the notion to believing and thinking that when you die, you're dying, it's over and that's it. No, you're still who you are. And so Warren transitioned through having a physical death. Many of us are having a death while we're in the physical body, because that's what happens. You must die. You must be reborn of what? The spirit. That's what Yeshua said. You must be reborn of the spirit. There's no dancing around it. There is no I'm going to go eat vegetables around it. And I don't mean to disrespect anyone else, but I want you to know how deep this goes when it comes to your transformation. And so we are changing the alchemical components of our bodies, which moves us into that crystalline space. And it may be something overnight. It may not be. But guess what? It's already happening now. It's already happening now. I even had mentioned to Stacy, without even realizing, when I told her what I recorded this in the book way before anything happened, that some of you may even start to see your complexion change. If you're of a lighter complexion, you're going to see yourself moving into the spectrum of looking darker, not because you went out in the sun or not because you went and got a suntan done or anything, because as you take on and move back in the spectrum of returning back to yourself, you take on the visage of who you are originally, as an original being that incarnated on the planet. That is a part of returning to a 0 point on the axis of maybe the time of your birth, maybe a timeline of which you felt more comfortable within yourself, and how you're connecting to yourself. You're connecting to everything coming through from the central sun. The central sun is the light source that you're connected to, that you're templating and embodying. To get to that place of where we're embodying that, you're dying 1,000 times over and over. That is what the crucifixion really is. Okay. When we had moved through time and space with everything that we experienced, because the soul desired to experience everything that it wanted to know. And as we accumulated the pain, as we accumulated the sorrow, the indifferences, the racism, remember, so, all the pointing fingers, always remember from that higher perspective that we chose to have these experiences so we can get to what? To know ourselves, to come into a greater self-realization. And during the course of time, there had been energies, and this is separate now, dark forces that have not wanted things to continue on the planet as far as ascension, okay? And that means that because this is the only playground they have on Earth. This is the place that they get to play. The ones who are what we call evil, doing things against humanity, the manipulation, the greed, the power, all of that stuff. And so what happens is they attach to certain people. And some of you on here may or may not even realize that you're still attached to some of that energy, okay? And it's for you, not for someone to tell you, for you to feel that within yourself. And what else is there for me to look at, to feel within myself that you may be attached to some of that corruption or distortedness in that energy field, okay? Because what happens is when the mind is affected, when the mind is corrupt, the heart is closed off. And when the heart is closed off, there is no receptivity. You're not able to receive. And so when your heart is open and the mind is working through the process of what it's releasing, what it has been attached to, then you're going to be able to receive the codes, the energy, the light, the information, so you can process it and you become what? At ease with yourself. You're able to move through this reality with greater peace because you're applying more wisdom and understanding from whatever it is that you've had to release. Because once you have no reception to this and there's no receptivity, you can't tune in. You can't tune into anything else that's bringing you back into what connecting and bringing forth your light body, okay, and understanding it. Your beloved won't be able to pick up on your frequency. So your mind and your brain has to work through the signals of what it receives and what it perceives. It's a consciousness. It's a separate, it's a part of your body, but it has its own consciousness. Your mind has its own consciousness. Your heart has its own consciousness. Your feet has its own consciousness. And so if you have patterns and beliefs that's still within your mind and what you are attached to, then what happens is it's like it's like you can't see anything further than what you're still holding on to. Because the more you're attached to and you're at that frequency of what you believe and what is still tied to your ancestors, and the heart is closed off because the heart is like, I'm trying to reach to you. I want you to understand. I want you to have compassion. I want you to connect. Heart means connection. That means you're connecting to someone. You're connected to something. And then your mind will see it differently. And then when the mind sees it differently and the heart responds, then you become more open to receiving and more open to healing the genetic distortions that have existed throughout timelines, seeing it from all sides, especially to where it began, getting to the root of it. So now what I want to do, because I could go on and on, I have more. I wanted to get into why I am so happy to have Jen on this broadcast today. Jen had told me she had to go deep into the core of her ancestry, which is tied to white privileges, white supremacy, I believe, and everything else that had been distorted for her and how her mind was affected. And she had worked for the government. I remember when she was working for the government, and she said, I remember that time when she said that she had to make that decision to walk away from it. So many of us who are on the twin soul path, which she is also, it doesn't mean always that if you're on the path that you walk away completely from the work that you used to do. Some of you may be guided to continue to go back to where you are. Some of you may be guided to do something different. I know someone who's on a twin soul path, and she was a police officer, and she left that industry and she went back into it because I know that there's so much corruption and all these different energies of things that are portraying that has to play itself out. That's playing itself out the way that it has to, how it has to be exposed. But also know that it's a part of the transformation. So the ugliness has to rear its head. So without me knowing, and before everything else have been showing up in feeds to do with all of the murders of our Black men and Black women, I had noticed that Jen was already putting out information out there to do with white privilege. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. And I knew and I felt in my heart that she was facing something. She was facing the demons. She was facing the darkness. She was walking into it. She was putting herself in a position where she probably was attacked. She probably was chastised. I'm sure she probably had herself being separated from family members, because a lot of times, again, that side of the spectrum is those who don't want to go deeper into how something was created. Where did it start from? How it hides itself into another layer by attaching to another name, you know, like all those little things out there, you know, with the conspiracies. And I'm not saying if some conspiracies are not real or whatever, but come on now. if you pay more attention to all the conspiracies and all the stuff out there that is perpetuating, no, this is not racism, how dare you say that it is, and I'm against this, then guess what? You lose sight of how am I a part of what is out there? How can I go within myself to see where that wound is and relate it to myself and to others and how they feel, and I can start healing myself because I am not ignorant any longer. I'm educating myself and I'm understanding myself and how it ties to my lineage and how I can now choose differently and start from within. Okay, so I'm gonna have Jen finally speak on not only what she had to do for her own personal healing, but also what she does now to help women when it comes to natural childbirth and the services that she offers, even for those who, if you feel that you're against the racism or it doesn't exist or I don't have this, that she can help you because she's been there. There's nothing better than talking to someone who's been there and she understands it for herself and where it had taken her to rip herself apart. She had to literally rip herself apart to get to the matter. And that is why we're here, to get to the matter of things so we can be what? Free and back to 0 point. And it goes in layers. So I now present to you, Jen. Yay, finally.
Sharon, you are amazing.
Oh, thank you, darling.
You really are. Thank you, Stacey, for sharing your story too. That was really brave and vulnerable and all of those things. So I definitely just want to share that and honor that. So for me, I just wanted to share, for me, like my twin soul journey, it brought me into a lot of different spaces. And in the end, what I found was that the most important thing was the falling in love with yourself, right? Falling in love with yourself and finding a space in this world and, that transformation that you are meant to experience on this journey. And so not getting into all the twin flame stuff because I just don't want to go there. But what I had been brought to through this journey was connecting with these amazing souls out there, people like Sharon and other amazing souls that I have worked with as well. And through this process, I had come into various communities and various groups and come into contact with a lot of different people. And I also had a lot of stuff going on in myself. I was healing from an abusive first marriage, and my first husband is Black and also Native American, and I have a son who carries both of our genes. So I had all this complexity to get through, along with my twin flame.
I think it's a beautiful thing. I don't think it's a complexity. It's beautiful to be mixed in its own way. It's all the intention. It's all the intention and the beauty of it.
Of course, of course.
It would be boring if we were all the same, right?
Sorry?
It would be boring if we were all the same.
It would be boring if we were all the same.
Mm-hmm.
But for me as the human, right, in the mind, how do I work through all of this stuff, knowing that I'm here on a mission and knowing that I'm here to make some changes, right? So I had found at certain points in my journey that I had recognized where within certain communities that there was this separation, right? Separation from other parts of what's really happening. However you want to look at that. And I had journeying into a me and white supremacy journey, which allowed me to essentially get in touch with where I was still, propagating some of these systems, or where I was involved with some kind of power and control system, as well as racism and white supremacy, because it's all connected, right? You see. And so with that recognition and digging in and finding where I was complacent within those systems and being able to pull my energy out of those dynamics, I found that I could create that peace that I desired within myself in order to expand that peace without.
Mm. And do you remember when you mentioned to me, and I said, wow, that is a very brave step to take when you're stripping through the layers. For myself, I remember, huh?
It's very scary. Yeah, it's very scary. It's very scary.
And this is what it takes to strip yourself and to die 1,000 times. And I remember when I allowed myself to walk through the fire, is really what I called it when I had a hypnosis session. I had it twice in my life. One when I was pregnant with Brandon. I had to go through a regression for myself because I realized I was having a fear every time I went around my oldest son's father, and I needed to find out where it was coming from. And when I did that, I literally was in fear, and I saw in that memory where I was buried alive, and he took away my 5 children. I was literally tortured, and I saw myself ascending out of my body, and I died. I went to the other side and I was free. And so I think about many other lifetimes that probably did happen. And I could feel that. And I also remembered I think I saw myself in this black garb. So I think I was Amish. So I saw myself like Amish looking or whatever, because I was in those wooden boxes. So to me, that brought me to like maybe in the 1800s or 1700s or something like that. And when I did the second hypnosis was after the fact, when I was going through that greater awakening process after meeting my twin, and I wanted to go into deeper layers that were in my subconscious mind of what had occurred. And I literally had felt myself going through so many convulsions and running, always seeing myself running, and always seeing something coming out of me with crying and feeling separated from him, and what I dealt with, people coming after me and like feeling an attack, always feeling an attack. When many of us have done things where, you've done everything from your heart, you've done the best that you can, but it's like you're not able to move forward because when you're trying to be the best version of yourself, it makes you feel like something is out to get you, or something is angry at you for you being yourself and being who you are. And that has happened a lot in the Black community, where we have tried to build and rebuild ourselves, and then there's an attack that comes in, and then it's overlooked and it's put to the side. And that's why I had to go deep into the layer of where that started from. And also the side of the spectrum is, why did we allow it to happen? And it's like many of us have lost that fighting spirit, that feeling within us that we can stand up for ourselves and to speak up. And I've been paying attention to how many of you have been speaking up, like really speaking up with how you feel, even if you have not experienced feeling indifference, but you know someone who has, and you just watch on the sideline and you haven't said anything, and something could have been done to change it. Because what happens is when we don't change it, it stays and lingers in the air. See, it doesn't move. So when Jen told me that she did something with herself, I was like, wow, that is a brave move. That is a very brave move, because it's almost like you're dissecting yourself to get to the deepest core of that wound. And even sometimes when you think you've dug enough, there's more digging to do, because it's endless. It's endless. I've heard of many people that have dug beneath the surf, the crevice of the earth, and it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. But guess what? That's the same thing that's within us, to go deeper. If something's affecting you with all of this, it should affect you. I feel that if it's not affecting you, then there's something that you're in denial of this if it's not affecting you, because that means that your heart is still not open. And it's a fact. Your heart is still not open. It's not a judgment on it. That's an observation. And that's exactly what it is, because everything to how we're transforming with all of this is, can we get back to our hearts? Because that's what started the fall, with Atlantis, is that we disconnected from source, we disconnected from our hearts. And every time something chaotic is showing up, what I call chaotic, because I feel like we've been in all the movies We've been in we're playing out the version of all these movies. And the main theme is that there's always something to come across as a physical action, but now we can also, as well, to create that transformation from the heart. And Spirit had led me to a word, circumcision, the circumcision of the heart, because the hearts have been so hardened and cold, disconnected and soulless. And that disconnected self is that programming and that wired, robotic, oh, it's not my problem. Oh, it doesn't matter. Oh, I'm going to go about my day. I'm going to go to work. I'm just going to come home, do my business, what I do, and there's nothing else. And that is not holding it or kicking it anymore in the new energies that are coming in on the earth, you see? And some may say, well, I don't want to feel the pain. I don't want to look at it. I think I've looked at it enough, and it's just not enough. This is where we're persistent with really honoring ourselves with what the truth is about this, and being able to see the truth itself means that if you're hearing something blaring out on one side of the spectrum that's louder and louder and louder, and you're not willing to look at it deeper, okay, and you're turning yourself away from it, there is that internal wound of how you are feeling inside with how you've been either treated as a child or something you have observed or witnessed that was never addressed. See, that's what it is. It's just never been addressed. That's right. So I don't know if you do want to disclose what you did, Jen, or not. It's okay. I just wanted to open the door, to that, because I know sometimes people think that unpeeling back the layer is just the simple things of what we may do to facilitate. But I call that kind of like the Band-Aid effect, when we do our, daily walks and stuff like that. But I'm talking about the fact that the transformation really moves in deeper through the fire and the flame. And I don't mean it to be facetious, but I'm talking about when you're really burning through something because you've taken an extra step, an extra mile towards your healing process.
Yeah, so for me, it's about, really at this time, it's about being present and showing up here in the physical body, mm-hmm. and creating that change from the ground up. So mm-hmm. It's not about being out there, although we still hold our light. It's about taking everything that we've gained up to this point and bringing mm-hmm. it into the body and speaking that truth from that deep space of feeling, of knowing, of being the sacred feminine embodiment of, getting through those layers and truly uprising and speaking that from a much deeper space. And within our systems, we hold on to various programs, and you can see that very much within many of the spaces out there that are still hold certain elements that need to be brought to the surface and revealed, because we can't have that coming into the new. We can't have these racist systems. We can't have these viruses. We can't have these diseases. And so how do we connect back to our original, human divine templates and recognize the divinity within the human body, which was created by source creator, however you want to connect to that. How do we connect into that? All of the systems out there are designed to not support that. So it's about coming, within, reconnecting to your your ancestral traditions, right? Connecting to that part of yourself that hasn't been whitened, essentially, that hasn't been false lighted, you could say. So getting back into your roots, coming into the body. But in order to come into the body within an ascension template, you must root out all of that, that you have, all of the systems you have been connecting to that keep you out of that original soul essence, that primal state, that ability to trust that gut within, not the false gut, not the gut you think is the gut or the intuition you think is the intuition, but the actual gut, right? What is the power within the, the actual body? When I talk about birth, it's understanding that, number one, the racial disparities and the racial injustice which within the reproductive system is horrid, and that needs to change. So what are we going to do about it? All these systems in place stay in power because we allow them to. How do we take our power back, and how do we stand up in a much more active way at this time of change? And we're each going to have our own individual unions, or our own individual missions, our own individual life by designs is what I call them.
Yes.
And it's taking everything that we've learned and doing something with it, something substantial that's not about the conspiracy theories and all that shit out there, because it is, the truth is that yes. And most of the conspiracy theories, I have done my work, they are rooted in white supremacy. I understand the organizations that exist out there. I know how the government works. I know how the agencies work, and everything that's out there will have you believe certain things. But this is based on my own actual experience, the spaces that I come from. I see things. I've experienced racism. I've experienced sexism. And I'm not saying me personally as a white person, but I've seen it with my own two eyes, and it is horrible, and it is happening. And it's reconnecting to the understanding of how we've been programmed from every single system that exists wherever we are, that is suppressing that original essence, that ability to connect in, and really, you look at, like with the virus, creating new spaces, like sealing things off, right? No longer engaging within that and creating the new. How do we create the new? How do we leave the corruption behind? So, sorry, I know that's kind of like a lot of stuff.
It's important to talk about that, because, not everyone understands how to look at the layers of this, to how we shift it. Because if you feel in your heart that you're to participate in protesting, then you do that because that's your forte. But always remember too that no matter what you choose to do, that we're not going to judge it, and still come back within ourselves. Like, what part of me am I going to transform within myself with the programming and the beliefs, and how I viewed myself? Because let's face it, we all have different ways in how we celebrate and within our cultures, and things we do within our culture. Like for me, I'm from Jamaica, so I'm from a different cultural background than even Black Americans, but we still in that same collective energy of things that we do together, right? And understand each other. And it's not the same, but there's something to how we can be in a collective space of love, in enjoying each other's culture, understanding we have different hair textures, we have different complexions, we have different ways of how we speak and how we express ourselves. And some of us have been more suppressed with who we are within our culture, and then break it down to also females, and break it down to children who haven't been able to voice themselves as well, and how they've been treated, feeling as if they don't belong. And there's also the masculine. There's a lot of males who felt that they have been suppressed and they have not been, and they're programmed into that they're supposed to be this and they're supposed to be that. And if you're only in a space of changing your sexual orientation, that's another issue. So the list can go on and on. And the thing is that when you find that part of yourself that it doesn't feel right anymore, and that it's not justified anymore, are you going to sit there and wait for the government or someone else to change it for you? Because that's not happening. That's not kicking it anymore. That's the part of where we're moving out of how we did things before. We've done protesting, we've written, we've prayed, we've danced, all of that. So that means that the part that we have to face is ourselves. We have to face these ugly mirrors, and the beautiful ones too. Both sides of the coin, both sides of the spectrum, because that is how you get to know yourself. You can't know yourself if you're staying one-sided, and that's a fact. That sounded like I was in the glitch, right, in the Matrix. But either way, this is about, I am finding myself and I am observing who I am in this lifetime, to when I did not speak up, or maybe you spoke up too much, and now you're kind of taking a step back and allowing others to speak up. Okay. There may have been a time where you may have been the one that was racist in another lifetime. And now this is your opportunity to see things from another perspective with how you treat another human being. Because no matter what, for someone to actually say racism doesn't exist, that the racism and the protest is a conspiracy, is like, to me, it's like that person is trapped in an illusion and a delusion, disconnect from the heart, disconnect from people, disconnect from others. Okay. I will never forget. I'd love to share this with you. When it was about a year or two ago, I went to one of my local West Indian restaurants in my neighborhood. And when I walked, I saw this homeless man, and I looked at him and I felt something just felt different about him. I didn't know what it was. And so when I saw him, I heard the voice within me say, you're going to help him. I'm like, really? Because, sometimes you can't trust who you're going to help and who you're not. And so I trusted that something. So he walked into the restaurant and he looked at me and he said, thank you. And I didn't do anything. So I went to the bathroom. I came back and I said to the lady, I said, could you just give him anything that what he wants to eat, and so I paid for the food for him. And I heard something immediately in my heart that Yeshua was around me, and he jumped into that man's body and used his body to communicate to me. And I said, oh my God, this is so crazy, because first of all, I wasn't expecting that to happen, but I didn't allow my mind to take over from my heart to what I was feeling. That even if someone was trying to trick, or even if so, because when you stay connected to your heart, your heart is the new navigational system. Your heart is the new way of how we communicate, because it's a consciousness, and it's a consciousness that's also created to the greater consciousness of source, you see? And so it's not to say that you're getting rid of your mind. What you're doing is you're transforming your mindset. You're transforming the way you interpret things, how you're able to put the pieces together, what information is coming into you, what information is stored within you from your lineage, and where do you trace it back? So if many of you have felt like, well, I know who I am and I grew up with my family, yeah, but have you gone even deeper? Have you gone even further back in your lineage to see what has taken place? If maybe there was someone in your family that was in a position of power and they also had slaves. Because you see, the slavery system itself was tied to what started in the beginning stages of Atlantis, to how power changed and shifted to, I am only powerful when I have someone or a group of people that makes me powerful. But when those people that are giving that person the power realize, when they self-realize who they are, they no longer give that power to the person who is oppressing them, you see? And some of you don't realize that you're still in slavery. You're still in that slavery template. You may not want to hear it as that, because we want to paint a picture pony and make it sound pretty, but it's not pretty at all, because that is exactly. And once you realize that within yourself, that if you feel it's okay to separate people and to separate someone based on the color of their skin or the country where they're from, or that they are from a different background or a different way that they express themselves, again, that is a part of the racism. You are racist. It's like you are operating from a systematic racism that covers itself up into other layers of what it is. And basically it equals separation. It equals how one views things based on a collective feeling of, I'm better than you, I'd have more than you, you don't deserve this, blah, 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 blah. And if you feel it's not significant when it comes to your ascension, you're fooling yourself, because it is extremely significant, because that part of the self is what's fragmented. That's the part of the self that reflects on, why am I not good enough? Why do I not feel I deserve to have the best for myself? And the only way that I can have the best for myself is that I receive it from someone else. That you're waiting for it to come from someone else outside of you, for someone to tell you what's the best for you, for someone to tell you that you deserve love. And that's how deep it goes. And so there's a lot to reflect on, who in your circle, because it's so easy to look outside and say, oh, this celebrity is doing this, and this one is doing this from this region, and this one that's in a position of power, and all these politics and all that stuff. But who are you giving your power to in your immediate circle? Who are you, or what are you giving your power and energy over to? And what part are you working on to bring that balance back to yourself? And where that wound is, that may be of hatred of yourself. Can you look at yourself in the mirror and say that you love yourself completely? Can you look at yourself and say that I feel wholesome inside and I'm at such peace in my heart with things? You see? Because this is what I call the soul evolution. Soul evolution means that you are fired up inside, and anything that fires you up is what is awakening you from within yourself to come up for that healing. And that even if it means it's going to come across as anger, it's okay. Please do not demonize yourself into thinking that anger is the wrong way to move through this process, because it's that tie again to the cover up, is what I call it, through whether the religious community, the spiritual community, oh, don't do it this way. And that's another layer of suppression, because you're being suppressed in not what? Expressing the true natural state to that fire within you to speak out and to express. When we speak out and express, it comes in an energy of power when it comes out in the voice, and it's in volumes. If you find yourself feeling that when you're speaking that it's very low and then you ask yourself, when can I now rise into a greater, stronger vibration of my voice, that it feels like the heavens are roaring? You are the heaven. You are that part of creation to create. And you can stay right where you're at and shift something at this very moment without going anywhere, without any tools, without any speaking, because you're feeling it within your soul. And the cells in your body are shifting and transforming back into the original DNA blueprint of who you are. No limits. And the limits, the limits that, the no limits, I should say, that comes into play is that you're able to create from within that vortex, that part of you that is connected to creation. Embodying the Christ, very important thing that Spirit keeps nudging me to mention. Embodying the Christ means that everything that flows through the light part of you, the light body that's coming through your body, means that you're also paying attention to the physical human body, the physical human element. And that means you're paying attention to the experiences that you're having, because the experience that you're having ties and connects to that part of you that is also in the light and moving through the dark matter and merging it together. So when you're embodying the Christ, that means that you're feeling high and great inside, and then you're coming back down in descension. You're descending into the physical body, and you are merging and integrating those codes. And that means that it's going to push out anything that is not serving the highest and best for you. That's the process of ascension. Process of ascension means, and moving into the Christ consciousness embodiment, there are no spiritual bypassing with this anymore. The biggest elephant in the room is this, the racism, the part of ourselves that has felt angered by because we felt enslaved. So the enslavement is even through the work that you do that you're not happy with, and not in your passion. The times when you may have wanted to say something to your family member, but you don't want to hurt any feelings, or you felt like as if you were not acknowledged, because we all desire to be acknowledged for who we are and the gifts that we have. And we should be afraid.
Said and seen. People want to be seen.
People want to be seen.
Getting over that fear of that being seen, fear of being heard, fear of all that fear. All that fear.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the first step to getting through that fear is speaking up. Speaking up. You'd be surprised at how good you start to feel inside. You see, and where it takes you in that transformational phase. See, so it's like, and each time you go through that layer, you open up a window of being able to see something more that you didn't see before. You see, it's like a wow type of feeling. It's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then what it does is that it takes you on a quest within a quest within a quest. I mean, Stacy and Jen and I was communicating with them separately for the past, and it's like I was in class again. This is a different type of classroom. This is the classroom of ascension. This is the classroom of acceleration. And this is what I call like my church, or this is what I call my sanctuary. This is what I call my excitement. This is what I call my movie, because you dig and there's more and more and more. To me, I look at it that if you're not in a place right now, no judgment, just an observation, that you're not digging and you're not trying to understand and put the pieces together of all of this, then life must be pretty boring for you. Life must be really, 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 really boring, because I've been digging for a long time. See? And it's a different type of like, I call it like a sexual energy, because the sexual energy is what creates. And to me, what I felt when I had that the physical connection of my beloved with the phone, calling him and all that stuff, it was like a penetration on me. And then if anyone knows about sexual positions, is that sometimes the one person is on top and you switch places, and then the feminine or the female will be on top, because we're penetrating through something. It's not going to happen if you're not penetrating through something that's blocked. You know, it's like they say, women in the beginning, you're like this virgin. And it means that you're pure. You're in a pure state, in a pure form. It's like a void. It's like it's empty. It's zero. And then once that hymen is broken, then what happens? It opens the door for something to start to happen in all these elements, right? And as we penetrate, because it's not going to shift around you if you are not doing some type of internal action. See? It's an internal action reaction, okay? So even if you do react to something that you hear because you were penetrated back on with somebody saying something to you that just triggered the fuck out of you, then that tells you, oh, okay, how am I going to look at this from my perspective? So if you feel that you want to speak out to that person or not, you might want to record it, like I've always said before. But don't just pass it by and say, oh, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Oh, because it's going to rear itself back to you. Again, I guarantee you, this time frame is where the earth, again, is moving so fast, rapid. And it's like this whole month in June and all of these eclipse energies. We have the solstice. Everything is moving in such a vibration and a force, and it's happening on a cellular level and a subatomic level, a cosmic level, okay? The earth has been the feeding ground, like I said, for the dark forces that has worked through people. But guess what? Love is penetrating more now. Love is penetrating. The more you guys work through your heart center and feeling and connecting to everyone with everything, the key is, like, I know some of you say, oh, I'm empathic though, Sharon, and I don't want to really feel into it too much because it hurts. Yes, I know it hurts. Let it hurt you. Let it hurt you, because I know people still want to teach and say, oh, I feel hurt. Okay, go and wrap it up and, you know, and stuff like that, and let it, you know, go away. Let it feel into it. Feel into the pain. Feel into the hurt. Feel into the rage. Feel into it. I actually everything is just led to me. I just, to put it to you that way, I don't just go searching. It just pops up for me. And I saw the video with Sandra Bland and what she went through. And, you know, I heard about her. I remembered, you know, what happened through her. And she was an activist in her own way. And her voice is still being heard. And it was painful to watch what she went through. And I didn't avoid it. You know, I watched the whole entire thing, and the rage just started to come out of me. And I said, I wish I was there with her. I know many of us would have wished that we were there with her. And this is something that happens in with a lot of women as well, where we're taken advantage of because we're females, you know, and regardless of the color of skin. And still, again, it still happens, and it happens, and it happens. And this is about us also being able to look out for one another and really stand up for each other. And so I know I've seen videos of people finally are standing up for each other, because even children are being attacked because they're speaking up, which I don't feel is right. But again, everything must play itself out. So use your power to change things in every way that you can, because the more that we bond together as a community, no matter where we are and whatever corner of the world, when we connect and bring in that greater embodiment of the Christ consciousness, you don't even have to go anywhere. It just transforms everything around you. Whoever's meant to stay will stay. Whoever is meant to go will go, because it's energy. It's energy that we're transmuting. Many of you will remember that you agreed with Mother Earth to come back here, and we came back here for her, for Mother Earth, so we can be in that freedom and be able to express and to live freely without anything else that has existed that has been in so much of this distortion. You see,
balance and harmony with the nature
Yes.
and the planet. Yeah.
Yes,
Permanently.
permanently, permanently, really permanently. See, so it's important to not be attached of the human constructs when we are working to reach to these levels. Okay, because I wrote this down because I didn't want to forget. And complete that part of yourself where you're observing and not attaching to what you see, but you're still understanding it from a greater place of wisdom. Okay, and as you are observing it, you're working through that part and that layer of yourself of achieving what we call an angelic consciousness, you know, where and it can be quite tricky, because it's like, I love you, but if you mess with me, I'm gonna fuck you up, or I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna that, and I'm not gonna tolerate it. That's the empowerment. But if you say, I love you, and you know, it's not my problem, or I'll just let it go because it'll work itself out. That's not working. It is not. It is not. And it's not just for one day, it's every day. Because we're doing this until the point where we're not hearing anything more about all these conspiracies. We're not hearing anything more about what's going against someone, you know. But remember, we're unraveling and peeling back layers and layers. We're moving through timelines. Timelines are moving through within your solar plexus, individually, within yourself and outside of yourself, within yourself and outside of yourself. That's how it's happening. So if you see something and you're feeling it within your soul, then come back to yourself and say, how can I now apply something differently? Understand where it's coming from. If it's time for me to be quiet, and I'm going to work internally, and I'm going to transform this shit and use my magical powers, because that's where the magic comes from. And that magical part of ourselves have been shut down because we've been told to stop doing that. Don't do that, or you're going to be burned at the stake, or you're going to be buried alive. You know, so even throughout other timelines, whether or not what the color of the skin has been, we have been oppressed and oppressing through so much suppression that layers in more suppression, on and on and on, like a broken fucking record, broken, like a broken record. Okay, so the cosmic Christ embodiment is the invitation that you have on planet Earth. That's why you came here, if you don't remember. Okay, you're invited on this physical earth plane, what has never been done before in the 3D reality. Okay, and that energy itself, when it comes together with the pairs, is what it's going to make a difference to that greater shift on the planet, to what we ground on Earth. And if anyone knows the story, that separation expanded even more when it comes to the pairs, the sacred pairs on the Earth. And that's the reason why the darker energies do not want for it to come together in that harmonious space, because they know that the gig is up. So when you are in your empowerment, there is nothing either way that's going to stop this process. So always be conscious, be in awareness of the bigger picture, not fear of it, not running away from it. Okay, because once it knows that you are not in fear and you're not in that lower state of oh, this can happen to me, or this is never going to end, and all that stuff, and you know, and if you stay perpetuating in all of that cycle with all that stuff, it's not going to change for you. It's not. And it's like you stay stuck in that vibration of that hopelessness and victimizing it, and that's where you stay. Okay, because we're all creating our own realities. Either way, we are. You see, and it makes a difference when we take responsibility. This is about you taking responsibility now and not always looking outside of yourself every single day. Every single day. The minute you go outward, remember to come back inward. Throughout time, the disconnect from source is what has created all these issues because of disconnecting from source creator. That's the fallen angels. That's the time of when the earth split and split and split, and we split and split, splitting and splitting and splitting. So what's interesting is that the earth is coming together back in that higher energetic consciousness field of love, but then it's also splitting at the same time. So each time each person is moving and shifting in consciousness, the earth is coming together back into that space of love, but then it's also splitting off those who are still staying in that lower state of consciousness. And if they don't move themselves, which we can't do it for them. So we're not here to save anyone. Release yourself from the savior consciousness, or anyone that you're close to right now. It could be one of your twin soul friends or one of your ascension friends or family members. And if you keep constantly focused on what they understand or don't understand, guess what? You're pulling yourself back down into that vibration of where they are. Okay.
And you're also in a vibration of lack at the same time.
Yes.
You need that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Stacey, you wanted to say something? Because I could feel you want to say something.
That's yes. There's so many topics happening all at once that where it's just so powerful. It really, really is. And I watched the video you sent me of Jen today too. And sometimes it's like people want us. What I have found is looking at other things from other people that they're posting, or that kind of false light. They're trying to get you to get away from remembering that at the core of it, at least for me, source is always in control. And when you have that promise from source, nothing will take that away, and nothing can lead you away from source unless you choose to. So always remember, when you're coming back to yourself, remembering what I do, and this is what the only thing I can speak on, is that when I get wrapped up in, let's say, like a conspiracy theory, or thinking like, oh my God, does source not have it under control? Like, what's really going on? And thinking like that, I always remember moments of my life where it was like a instant, where everything was taken care of, where it was like undeniable that there were hands of a higher power on me. And that's when you're coming back, always remember to go back within yourself and go back to remembering your connection with source energy, because it's so powerful. And if you can just stand in that power, nothing can take it away from you. Nobody can take you away from your union. And it's taken me years to get there, but nobody can do anything to you unless it's something that you have chosen to go through and learn as a soul and come back to yourself as part of that self-mastery. So always remember that, there is a divine plan, and there's always a higher element, even if it's of yourself, because we're a multidimensional being, right? So I like to think that there are aspects of ourself also in higher dimensions that have things under control, where we can't royally screw it up too bad for ourselves and get too far off our path. So always remember that, and don't let anybody instill fear in you, because that is other people trying to get into the way of where you need to be and try to stop you to get there. And so it's so powerful to just stay in that light. And and there are people, absolutely, and I've run into them, and I'm sure all of us have, that will try to tear down your light or make you doubt your light too, even sometimes. And get to that point, even if it's for a second, like, I'm going to shine my light so bright that those other people are going to need sunglasses.
And don't be afraid to toot your horns. Toot, toot. Please don't.
Ladies, I need to go grab the door real quick. My son's on his way home, so keep going.
That's okay. I know, man. That's all right. This is a natural show, I tell you. That's right. No scripts. No
Keep
scripts.
flowing. Keep flowing.
Right. Got a whole bunch of notes, but that's all. That's as far as it goes.
Yeah.
Woo! Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, the reason why when that happens with people, Stacey, is because they are still having to work through their own self issues.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in your power, they feel powerless, and it's something that sort of will show up as an imbalance. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So and then what happened is that we all have different gifts, right? And if someone says, I have the ability, da 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 da, praise them, give honor, and we work together instead of tearing that person into thinking, oh, this is a win-lose thing, because that's when you go back into separation again. And if someone feels that, I always say there's a spectrum when it comes to how we feel about someone when there's something that's happening great in their reality. And it's either you're in that joy for them with where they are, or you may be on the spectrum of envy, and then it can go into the lower vibration of jealousy. In the middle with the envy is where the person can look at you and say, wow, that person can be like that and do that. Okay, I want to thrive to do that, so I'm going to take steps to do that. Jealousy now to me is that side of the spectrum where it almost comes along a side of hatred and feeling as if they want to do something to get back at you just for nothing, for no reason, and all because of their own insecurities. Okay. And that includes even if somebody wants to gossip about you, they don't have all the facts, they don't have all the information. So anything that's put out there or said to you, whatever, be mindful of where it's coming from, because all it is just something like I think of the Matrix when Neo was going up the steps with all the other guys, and he saw the cat and he was like, ooh, he's like, I've seen this before. It's a glitch. So think about when something comes into your reality again, that is getting your attention. And again, where are you giving your attention to something that maybe that person is trying to disempower you, make you feel bad, or because of their own insecurities? You see what I'm saying? Because every time when that happens, again, it's about that energy that says, I like to be in control. I don't want you to win. I want to be on top and you stay at the bottom. You see? So it's not for you to wait for someone to bring you to the top. You bring yourself to the top. You bring yourself to the top all the way. No stopping, never ending. You see? Constantly. You, take the crown and straighten it up and walk through it. In 1 second, I'm going to pause for this song and we are going to bring it a bit with. And everybody can be black and proud. You don't have to be skin color black, okay? That's programming. That's programming. I'm black and I'm proud. And I can play any music I want to, because why? Because this is empowerment. My intention. It's all about my intention. I'm not trying to make money off of this. Nope. Nope, 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 nope. That's right. That's right. You got to get that funk coming in as well. That's how you come into the blackness, the power. We receive power through the blackness and the energy. And when we understand the culture of the blackness, it's not to say that it's better than, it's just the originality of where the blackness takes you, you see? And the power that you have with the blackness. I even saw videos of people protesting, but guess how they were protesting? They were dancing. That's what I'm talking about. And guess what? The military soldiers were doing the electric slide. That's the blackness, okay? That's black people. That's what we do. We just make the best out of things. And that's not a reason to be jealous. Just join us. Join it all together. Bring it all together and see how we empower one another by creating that new reality and that abundance. You know what I mean? Where it's just free. It's free. It's empowering. In the African culture, we dance. And African culture is is in the spectrum of all of the countries that have existed that started out Black. Every country, every nation has started out Black. Do not allow anyone in your family or anything that you've known, try to erase the slate of what you've been taught in history and start again from that natural state, because that is what brings in your power as well, is understanding yourself, because you don't even realize that that part of you is holding that DNA anyway, and it's just to activate her, him, it, however you want to call it, into where it's going to take you. Do you see what I'm saying? It's also a part of what's in your in the subconscious mind and your consciousness, you see? And, you know, think back to when you had your past life memory, right? And that feeling of where we were in suppression as females. And the feminine energy is what brings the wisdom, right? And the understanding. And what happened is there was something that was created to dishonor it and to tear it down. And even those times with who we were still Black. We were still Black, brown color, whatever. And I can't believe to this day that people, even not only the ones that want to change the color of the skin of who we were back then, it's just a bunch of foolishness. Don't feed into that hype and that bullshit, okay? It's a fact that most of the queens during those timelines were Black, okay? And some were also in a lighter complexion as well, okay? And it doesn't mean they weren't Black. I just think it's just preposterous that people get so caught up in the color and not the message, okay? And then they dishonor the message also because they want to see first what the color of the skin is of the person to see if it's worth listening to the message. You know, even that too. That's how the ignorance goes deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. You see? And it's a shame, but you know what? Hey, more love and more joy for me. That's all I can say. More love and more joy for me.
And once you start, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What'd you say?
I was just going to say, once you start to like realize, you realize it on all the levels that it's in, because it's in the media, it's in TV, it's in news, it's on all kinds of things, even radio ads. I mean, it's just kind of everywhere. And I often, you know, sometimes in a healing process, just like on the physical level, sometimes if you break a bone and it doesn't heal right, you have to re-break it in order for it to set right. And right now it's like everything is, we have been carrying as humanity a very old, broken structure.
Oh my God, it's so old.
And then so what's happening right now is it's breaking, it'll break every bone. And I also get the image of like a breaking of the consciousness where like the mind is cracking open and it's all this old stuff flowing out, and then we have to reset it in order for it to come back together the way it was always supposed to be. I mean, but it was always supposed to take us till now to get there. But everybody on Earth signed up to transmute this shit off the earth. That's right.
And you know, oh my gosh, you know, it's like the expectation, of course, is that we are going to, and we are free. But it's important to still remember that we are going to walk through the fire to get to that freedom. And you cannot avoid the fire. You cannot avoid the pain. You cannot avoid the hurt. All it is to understand that hurt and don't avoid it. Understand the indifferences. Understand the bigotry. Understand it, okay? You may not. You might even hate it too, as well. You know, which takes it to the extreme. But if you feel like you hate someone, I think one of the worst things in the world is to hate someone without ever really talking to them and really hearing what they had to say. That you don't go by the little doctored up pictures and stuff like that that's out there. I say that a new method and way to understand each other is, even if you hear something or read something, connect to that person without even talking to them as well. Like really connect and feel what comes through from your soul, because your soul is the signal. Your soul is the compass. Your heart is the compass. You feel it within the vibratory field, what feels right at that moment, and also use your what they call it, your discretion, your gosh, I forgot that word. When you pay attention to what feels right at the moment, when it's time to pull away and stop hanging on to someone or something that's not good for you, because what'll happen is you'll keep on distorting that energetic field within you and stay fragmented. Okay. And that's one of the things that Source Creator is trying to get us to understand, many people to understand, to stay centered and connected always.
Yeah.
Okay. Stay in much of the joy as you can, as always, and that you're going to switch from the joy to the anger and honor it too, because that is what brings discernment. Thank you, Goddess Intersect Discernment. I couldn't remember the word. That is what, because you see, when you're going on this path here, boy, all the words start to come out the way. And even to another thing, to a message I wanted to remember to mention, that Spirit says to speak less English. I don't know if you realize that Madagascar, the country, is using less English. And there's a reason behind it, because a lot of words that we've used before have cast spells, they hold vibration, they hold energy that keeps you down and keeps us down. So always tap within when you're going to speak a word, and when you're hearing the word, how you're receiving it, okay? Because all of this is a part of the process of what we're breaking down in alchemy, is the words, okay? And that as the words are moving through the cycle of change and how we're rephrasing things, and even sometimes, you might hear me speaking in a little patois, and sometimes you might hear me sounding louder, and all of this is the shifting that is happening within us, and we start connecting to what we're feeling inside without saying the words, okay? Or if we're speaking in ancient tones, don't hold back on that, because all of that is moving things in another frequency, moving it upwards, okay? Moving it out from the old energy that feels heavy, and it feels good to feel lighter when I wake up in the morning, excuse me, you see? And so the fragmentation that occurs within the words, also habits that you have, things that you've been used to doing and speaking and saying and all of that stuff, how you take in the information in your head, okay, and how you process it. All of that is the importance of your what do I call it, like moving into that new part of yourself, because all of that stuff is what has to die. So even if there's certain things that are within your culture, sometimes you have to let that go too. There's superstitions that's within some of our cultures. There's certain things that we may have been attached to within our culture that no longer serves us. And there's some things that we're going to take with us, because as long as it feels light inside and it's for the highest and best, then you know that it's okay that you take with it. And you might also have to be in the practice if something is presented where you're just not doing it ever again. It's done, it's over. Let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go, and on, and more letting go, and more letting go, and more letting go. It goes in so many layers and increments, okay? And if we still attach to something that is no longer serving us, it's going to hold you back and hold you down. It really, really is. I know, because I've seen it. I've seen it with some people where they're holding on so tight for dear life, and then it's their only detriment, because that's all they have, nothing else, because it's always something outside of them, outside of them, outside of them. Connect to your shadow. Connect to your shadow daily. I know that in the spiritual community and all the other communities, they're like, oh no, just stay in love and light, stay in love and light, stay in love and light. Oh, we don't want to be too much into the darkness. We don't want to be too much in the shadow, So there's a key to how you can detach from the part of your shadow that you may not like, but still being aware of it, okay? And remember that we have different sides to the spectrum of who you are and what you're choosing. See? So it's like one may say, okay, I want to have money. I want to have a home. I want to have a car. And one may say, okay, I want to achieve that, but I want to achieve it by being empowered. And I'm moving towards my passion with that, to create that, because I'm healthy and whole inside. I'm running my own business and all that stuff from my own center. The other side of the spectrum, maybe someone that says, well, I want to attain it because I want to do something underhanded, And that side of the spectrum is more like, I want to be in control of it in another way, and where I can achieve it by stealing and being deceitful and being in more control and being in greed and all that stuff. And then what happens is that person might embody all of that physical things, but they're empty inside and shallow or disconnected. Okay. And then the other one may be more in peace because they have everything that there is and they're healed and whole inside in peace, you see? And it's more expansive and it's more expressive on that side of the spectrum. Now, does it mean that the person who's greedy and stuff that is bad? No, that person is experiencing it to understand itself as to why they're on that side of the spectrum, because they probably didn't have before. So they're attached to the physical thing because that's all they feel will make them feel better, and they're in control of it. But what happens if they lose it all? They can't find themselves. They're empty inside. They don't have anything. There's people who don't have anything at all, and they're in peace and they're in joy to the ultimate maximum. You see, there's nothing wrong with wanting to have more. There's nothing wrong with wanting to have money. There's nothing wrong with wanting to have physical things, because that's a programming that I know it hits home to a lot, because they're having difficulties in receiving, feeling that they shouldn't have it because, the Bible and, other people say don't have it, because then you're not spiritual, or you're supposed to give it all away. You see, give it all away, give it all away, give it all away. True wealth means that you are in health, prosperity, wellness, you're in joy, you're in peace, and you're in freedom. It's all of it. And you're empowered at the same time, you see? And that you're not attached to what you do have, because you know that there's more than enough to go around. But sometimes people who have all the money and all the physical things in the world, guess what? 9 times out of 10, they are still in a lack and limitation consciousness, because the only thing that makes them feel good is only all of the prized possessions that they have. And they can have it all in abundance and all there. And how many times have you heard all those stories of treasures that have been buried in the ground? And they died with it. They didn't have anything at all. And so that opportunity that they had to be right with themselves, and with others, there's always enough of everything to go around. There's enough wealth, there's enough land, everything. Nobody comes into this world owning any land, owning a home, or owning anything. This is the place and the place that we are here to receive. This is where we receive our abundance and be able to understand that abundance from the physical standpoint. That's why we're here. And it is for all of us to experience this abundance. And we are the ones that decided that we're going to recreate this abundance with being in love and being able to receive it and be able to enjoy it in peace. No more invasions. No more breakups and separations, right? And anyone who says it's not going to be here till billions of years from now, I totally disagree. I feel it's coming and it's getting closer to that point. And even if it doesn't look that way, because there's billions of people on the planet. I've had my conversation with God, but I was like, wait a minute now. We already know I'm bored. So you're going to tell me that we're going to wait another billion years, another million years, or 10,000 years, or 500 years, or 300 years before we...
No, we're doing it now.
We're doing it now.
We're doing it now.
We're doing it now. Absolutely.
There's nobody out there telling you this is what it has. It's a choice. It's just a choice. It's as simple as that. It's a choice.
And those who are aligning with that choice, we know what it takes for this to happen.
Yes.
See? For what it takes for this to happen. But first we must go through the fire and the flames and the storm and the hell, what we call the hell. That's where the transformation is not, I repeat, it is not going to happen by floating in the air and being in love and light. Let me tell you something. I've had the pleasure of my kids really always bringing me back down. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I forgot I'm here on the planet. Damn it. It always takes Charlize, because she's the Virgo. Always say, oh, come and look at this, And then it's like it just bursts my bubble, but it's necessary. We have to be in this reality too as well. We have to be in the human experience. That human experience, along with the higher parts of ourselves that's in that knowing, must come together as we move towards that embodiment of the Christ. You see, that's what it takes. And so each one of us that connect together helps us to stay on track with it, because I know sometimes we can feel like we're off track, but I don't really feel we're ever off track. Your soul is always speaking to you. And yes, Emily, we become golden. It becomes a golden experience. What if I tell you that gold really does come out of trees? They really do grow on trees, because Spirit led that information to me when I was recording for the book. And I was like, really? And they're like, yeah. Okay, it represents an element on the earth. And all the systems that have been created as far as monetary and all of that stuff, it's all changing. Everything that has enslaved humanity when it comes to money, possessions, and all that is going through a transformation. So if there's a land that has burned up, if there's a home that has burned down, it represents an old energy. Things can be replaced. People can't. Energy that exists has to transform. It cannot be killed. Okay? It has to transform. So use divine intelligence as to why something is burnt down or why it is decimated. Okay? This is how much of a rebirth they're going to. You're going to even see your skin will start to also transform. That some people already see crystals showing up in their skin. Your complexion might change. Your hair texture might change. Your hair might grow more. I also had some stuff that was still going on with my ears as far as ascension. Okay. I was still feeling stuff happening in my uterus. Like it's like, I don't know what to call it, like cramping, but because every part of your body is going through an upgrade. Every single aspect of your body is going through an upgrade. You see? Wow. Your neighbor's house caught fire. Wow. Yeah. Because you see, even, go ahead.
That gold is, it's that alchemical process, right?
Yeah.
And to me, I see the tree as that nervous system, right? So it's the transmuting the old nervous system, coming into balance, the parasympathetic, the sympathetic, and holding that.
Yes, yes. And that gold in and of itself is also the essence of the dark matter and the light that comes together with it from the central sun, because the central sunlight is actually knowledge, and that's the true sun, not the sunlight that you see outside. And everything that you think you've been taught to think that the sun is what gives us life. Well, what if I told you that it's the moon and the darkness that gives us light? What if I told you that's what was shown to me just yesterday, the day before? What you think was one thing is the opposite, or what you've been taught. You see? Because it's for us to understand the greater wisdom of life and death, rebirth, transformation, and alchemy. Every single element that they have fought for out there, as far as gold, silver, copper, guess what? You already have it. It's in your cellular system and your body. Your body is of the physical representation of God. It is the house of God. It is the house that stores information. Eventually, you won't have to turn on live witness news if that's what you still do, or anything on the internet, because we will be connected with each other without a telephone, without any devices whatsoever. And just information just flows, and it's filtered through with something that produces more data without having to break it down, because you just get it immediately like that, like a speed of light. And this is the practice to where we're moving in that cycle. So see how much more you can practice not looking up things too as well. Or if you receive it first and then validate and look it up, but always balance out between both and all the sides of the spectrum, with this. So this time what I want to do is take any questions that anyone may have. I'm going to go back up and honor everyone in here, because I honor every single soul, everyone. Gratitude I have for you all, because we all hold a blueprint, DNA, whether it's distorted or undistorted or whatever way we word it, to filter through it, and if there's something that you've heard today that that something has shifted within you, please put it in the box. Please type it in. And if you have any questions that you'd like to ask, or anything you want to share, please just share. If you have a specific question you want to ask Jen, or anything you want to ask Stacy, please feel free to ask. Tiffany, greetings, Tiffany. Ray, greetings, Ray. Love you too, girl. Stephen, greetings, Stephen, if you're still on, because I know some have been coming in and out. Brown, Brojita. Every time I see your name, I think about tacos, you know. Just want to tell you the truth. Brojita. I love that name. So, Stephen, you're doing your job if you're triggering people. That's right. If you are triggering people, this is like a commercial now. If you're triggering people, you're on the right track. If you would like to be triggered, just come on over here and you can get yourself trigger free. Oh my
And there's
God.
no judgment in this triggering. It's a different, it's not like
I like to be sarcastic, you know, because it's a fact. That's right. As a matter of fact, Stephen, if you don't mind me saying, Stephen had said to me the other day, he said, you know, I was mad at you, Sharon. I was like, really? Really? When did I get you mad? What did I say? He's like, I don't know. It was one of your videos or not. I said, oh, good. Okay. And we were having a healthy conversation. That is how we have a healthy conversations, how we have healthy communication with taking responsibility, with knowing if something did affect us. I'm not saying you have to say something if someone has triggered you, but is being transparent, okay? Because everything is moving into that space of being transparent. And that means that you're opening yourself, you're opening your heart to expressing what you're experiencing. And even if someone doesn't like what you have to say, you're taking that bold step to still express something. You're not expressing because you're doing it for someone out there to see it necessarily. You're doing it for you. That's who you're doing it for you. So Jenna, you changed your screen name. Yeah, I know. Greetings to Wanda. Emily, Candace, greetings, Candace. She's the beast. Yeah, girl, I see you dancing. I see you. That's right. Goddess energy. All right. Love you, girl. I'm just going back up to the beginning to greet everyone, because when I'm speaking, I'm just going like straight in. Okay, Emily. I think Emily was responding to you, Stacy, with Warren, that ultimately he's you. And just know that I've said this before, that Spirit showed me that if your twin has transitioned, if your beloved has transitioned, they are coming back as walk-ins. Remember that the purpose of many of us who are on this path, you know who you are, you don't need anybody to validate it for you, is that we're bringing the ascension of higher love on the planet, the grandest vision, the greatest vision that we've ever wanted to express, okay? And that means that Source Creator is having the individuation of each and every one of us that have our specific templates of how this love is expressed. So some of us, the love might be expressed as far as coming from two different cultural backgrounds. Your twin has transitioned. Will you recognize love? Will you recognize him or her when they're back in another body? Do you think it's impossible for that to happen? This is where we're making what is so supernatural. It's not a natural state to who we are with this. This is supernatural. We are beyond human in the human element here. We are in I call it galactic element, okay? It is cosmic, very cosmic, okay? I don't know why my nose is just itching, but this is how my body responds to processing. And she's the beast, she says, makes you wonder how many women in power are silently going through the same thing. Oh yeah, there's a lot of women who have been silenced, and some who are robotic and cloned, like Candace Owens. Got to call it out. Hey, ooh, yeah, all right. So, but it is what it is, you know. That's right. It is what it is. Everyone has their purpose. So anyway, Eddie said a psychic told you that you already met your twin. She'll appear again by the end of the year. There's a stagnant move. We're not communicating. Okay, so remember that whatever connection that you have to your twin, or a part of you that feels you're connected to someone, that you're always going to be guided all the time, and work through how you can recognize that connection without someone else telling you about the connection. And I know that there's always a need to want to go deeper for it to come from someone else, but always remember that the connection to that person is internal. I was mentioning to, I don't remember who it was I was talking to, when I used to feel Rondi outside of me a lot, the etheric body, but I haven't felt that in a long time. So because I've been feeling the internal aspect of who he is connected to me, within me more than outside of me. But it doesn't mean outside of me doesn't exist to do with him. It's just that I'm not having those experiences anymore. So it's like it always moves in stages. So before he came into the picture, I was dreaming about him for years until the physical contact occurred with him. Ironically, it happened today, actually, 6/6. So it's no coincidence. See, so it's very and it's 6 years, so that's no coincidence either. So dynamically, I know that something had been transforming from that stage that he came into my dream state. That's what's within the subconscious mind. There's a search that happens. The search is within you to connect, and it's always that part of yourself that desires to feel love, desires to connect to love, desires to express that love. So if you haven't done anything loving for yourself while you're going through all these beautiful stories that we're expressing here, that's pulsating out. This is us as a collective in the expression of all of this that's happening. Do not think that you're not a part of it, because you are. It is the full consciousness of the soul, but the oversouls, and don't forget the individuation part of you that can also have some fun, even if you don't want to, because it helps, because that is how you're able to master yourself, see, through the pain and the sadness and the anger and the frustration. You see, very, very important. So
You gotta nurture yourself.
yes, nurture yourself as much as possible. I forgot to add in, okay, there's Eddie, what he said. So that part of yourself in connecting to, I would say, okay, because I'm trying not to say too much of the word twin, because it holds like this vibration, but it is the mirror of who you are, okay, because it is a mirror. And when you feel that love and it expands, that was created by the creator to get you to move into back to the truth of who you are, where you're not afraid anymore to be in your expression. And so the energy of that person is showing up in you, feeling and knowing that that person's out there to get you started, to get you in motion into becoming the greatest part of yourself. So once that starts to happen, that's where the chaos and everything in your reality starts to break down. Because I don't know anybody on here, if you're on that path, if you're having all these little pretty pony stuff, ooh, I don't know, because I know this path was filled with chaos, lovely chaos and madness. Everything that you could think of that was taken away, or, 1 minute, hey, I want to see you. Next minute, like, no, what are you talking about? It's like, it's almost like, it is, I prefer to say, it could appear challenging. So be careful, mindful of the words you speak when it comes to describing that person, if they're already in your physical reality, because it is all about you as well. It is you in two individual bodies in expression on different sides of the spectrum. And we're closing out the cycle of all of the accumulated information and experiences that have been gathered throughout lifetimes. So when I take it to that higher spectrum that spirit is guiding me to, is to understand again, all of the stuff happening out there is what we have all expressed in different timelines. And we're closing the gap to the spectrums that we have experienced and not turn away from it. So we complete that part of the self that held on to it, whether you were in a male body or a female body, whether you were black or white or red or whatever that physical expression has been. And that is what closes that gap, so we can move forward. So we can move forward. And each time you're going to keep going to another 0 point each time, okay? Taking you to different levels, different stages. So I'm going to go to intangible balance. Oh, what a 4 names. I love that. I think this was for Stacy when she said, you're safe, it's okay to speak your truth. Oh, Stacy's been speaking her truth quite well, I tell you. Didn't you say, Stacy, that since when you went on the show, you felt different? I know it sometimes might seem strange when you start speaking out, because you're like, "Ooh, who's watching me?" And
yes,
keep talking and tell them how it has made you feel, the difference it has made for you from speaking out your truth.
Well, even you know, when you had switched back over to Jen, I was kind of grateful because it allowed me some time to process. But I did feel a lot where I was setting myself free in many aspects, and you know, standing up for myself in all the times where, because there were a lot of times in past lives that if I had only spoken up, I could have done something, or he could have done something, um, and it could have changed that. So it's untangling all these old timelines of me using my voice and how to do that, and stand up for what I know to be true within myself. So it's been fascinating, and I think you had touched on it too, that the process of dying inside, and then how we're sort of going through the dying process, rebirthing ourselves. And
Yes.
I've noticed just since the last week when we had the last live, I'm processing things differently, where like my weight will fluctuate like 5 to 10 pounds every day.
Oh, me
And
too.
it's like, and so I'm holding it in, releasing it, holding it in, releasing it. And so the more that I speak about it, it's the more that it's releasing, and then the more that it's also changing on a cellular level for me at the same time. And that the dying process and the rebirthing process, because I'm noticing it even in things like my you know, freckles, my skin complexion. I know it's hard to tell on the computer, but even people who see me on a regular basis have asked me, they keep saying how much better I look too, because they can tell the pigmentation coming back in my skin, because it was very very, very pale, where, you know, I had like no life force in my energy
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, and even veins and the everything. So, but it's very, um, it feels like it's clearing a whole lot of old things that I'm happy about. And I sometimes I chuckle because it's very much like myself, and like my twin, to allow to see things from the other perspective of that. And so to be able to use my voice is powerful. And I'm just so blessed that I have had the opportunity in such an amazing platform.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I know one question I want to ask for others, because there are others who have experienced their twin transitioning, and we already know what it's like. You know, they say when a child is born, you rejoice and you're happy, and then when someone transition, you cry.
Mhm.
And it really is the opposite, you know. And I had to tell you guys that when Stacy contacted me, when she told me that Warren had transitioned, I felt her pain. I felt the sadness, and I felt the pain, and I felt more pain and more. And I was feeling it with her before I even got to talk with her. And I knew she had to process through this, like burning through like 20 fires. So just knowing that when there's someone that you love deeply, that's just not here anymore in the physical world. And the way I see Stacy right now in her energy field, and from how I knew how she was before, during, after, anything, and while, and all the in-between stuff, I have to commend her for how she has taken herself through such a deep process. You know what I mean? And where her mind would have had to be right now compared to however it was before and during this process. And, you know, when someone says, well, how can you keep yourself sane with this? You know what I mean? But again, this is a demonstration of the love that she has for herself, understanding the connection, because that's what it is. It's a connection, getting past the illusion of what's real and not real. But then even if it's not real, that's still real also. Because that's how spirit always tells me, that whatever is on one side, it's still the other side as well. It's always in both sides. There's no way that you're supposed to be. That's what we're releasing, what you're supposed to be, how you're supposed to act, how you're supposed to feel. You see? So I just had to say that. So I don't know if you wanted to add to that, how you process that, because he's not here in the physical world, but then and he's still here, you know?
And it's I don't know if I can I don't know if I'll be able to do a good job at explaining it, because it's, you know, it's like everything. I guess you have moments in your life where you kind of do like a life review, because I do feel like I'm in the process of sort of dying and then being reborn. So you're doing a life review, and you can really take a look at how everything in your life leads you and prepares you for those moments that you have to go through that. And for myself, it's always just been like, whenever I'm stuck in something, um, I choose to make decisions of how can I move past this effectively, and like you've said, just like bulldoze through it.
Yeah.
And to do that, you have to get really uncomfortable, and you have to push through the boundaries that you've placed, the blocks you placed on yourself, the limitations you have felt like, oh, I can't do that, or it's not right for me to do that, or to speak up or to ask questions, no matter how it may appear to other people, but still maneuvering through it and keep pushing forward. You know, kind of like Dory when she's like, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. And it's just like you keep going and going and going. And then you reach that point and you're like, oh, I don't know how I did that, but I did it. And so you have
outside of your physical self. That's why you got to be out of your mind. You know, they say to get to heaven, you got to be out of your mind. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Out of the human construct, but still realizing you're still human, but you are beyond human. See, that's what it takes, and it takes guts to be on this path. It really does.
Yeah,
really, really does.
And speaking with you, you know, you really helped me in so many ways, but to help me also to realize the aspect of choosing. I'm choosing to do something, but then also you helped me realize in finishing the loop of it, you know, where it was like, if there was a situation that was appearing in my reality, closing the loop and looking at it from the higher perspective of what I had chosen to learn from, and bringing that back, so we're not like blaming other people or doing all of these things, where it's more so recognizing the full circle. And I know that that's incredibly hard to do for people.
Yeah, especially if you're not used to it, because it's almost like something you it becomes like a muscle, or you're practicing it at first, and then after a while it becomes naturalized back for you, because the soul in and of itself knows everything it needs to know. There is nothing hidden from the soul. Everything is in its fullest expression. Knowledge, everything is there. It's within you. Okay. And so what happens is that we had to forget and go into that memory of whatever from the time that when we descended. And then the experiences that we have accumulated throughout lifetimes, now we unlock those layers of what we have experienced, is what it goes into the Akashic records. So the Akashic records are within you. And so as you close up the circle, is because, especially if you're on the twin soul path, remember, each lifetime or timelines, we've changed places, experiences, gathered up the data. The data is taken back to the Godhead, then it's broken down. How did I feel? Who was I in the moment of that expression? Where was I in love? Where was I in anger? Where was I in this? Because these emotions are a part of the human cycle. And we wanted to be able to experience ourselves from the light, from being in the light form of that knowledge, but then applying it through the experiences that brings it back into the wisdom. Because how are we going to apply ourselves from what we know, from what we gathered from the experience? You see? And when you know that and keep remembering it over and over and over and over and over and under, sideways, frontways, backways, you bring in that inner peace. That inner peace. And this is how you're able to be at peace through the chaos. through the calamity. And I know some people look at you like you're crazy. Like, how could you be happy during this time? Because I am. Because I am. I'm stepping into I am. I am presence is both I am and I'm not. I'm not and I am. And then I'm in my am notness and I'm in my I amness, because we're experiencing both at the same time. The opposition, the opposite of me, the contrast of me, the similarity of me. I may reflect something opposite of you and the same as you at the same time. There's so many sides to the spectrum because it's endless and it's limitless. And that's why it doesn't make sense to stay too much in the head, because if you try to want to make sense of it all the time, you just go on. How many of you in here have just gone on and on? You're like, oh my God, when does this end? Oh my gosh, so much information. Oh my God. That's it. It goes on and on and on. And so it's to be able to come back, enjoy the human experience as well. For anyone to say, no, we're ascending and just being in the light and being in our light bodies only. And then that's the illusion, because that's why we're here. So those who say, oh no, you're not going to be with your twin. No, you're not going to do that. No, it's another lifetime. No, it's this lifetime. We are bringing in the power together. But it's not going to separate again, because now we remember why we're here. We're opening up the doors and unlocking everything that we have been in resistance because we just don't remember. And all the little dark forces that want to play the games, they could play the games all they want, because we're playing games too. But it's a different type of game. You could either stay in the Hunger Game, or you could be in the Game of Thrones, or you could be in the love game, or you could be in the power game of what true power is, and the peace game. You know what I mean? You choose where you want to participate, what you want to give energy to.
Yep.
You see, big difference. Big difference. Greetings, Zach, Melissa.
To answer your question too about how, at least how I have stayed sane, is the knowing and the trustingness, not only in my sacred masculine partner, but in what I know to be true from source, what I have been told, what I've been shown, what I know in my soul. And that is what keeps me sane every day.
Yes.
And reaffirming that.
Because it takes being in tune with your soul at all times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when they say be in the world, but not of it.
Yeah.
You know, that there's a big difference with that. And this is the stage that Spirit says where you are not going to have the full spectrum of your script or your story. Let go of needing to know what the outcome is going to be. That will be a surprise.
Yes.
I'm
guilty of that. Huge, Sharon. That is huge. Yeah. You just got to let it all go. You just got to be.
Oh my gosh. You have got to let it go.
You just got to be.
Yeah.
Be.
It'll show up in more of a magnificent way than we could even imagine. Like when I was trying to control things and I thought I had an idea, and God kind of showed me what was planned for me, and I said, oh, I want what you just showed me, what you have planned, not what I want, what you have, because what the Creator has planned for each of us as individuals is so much more magnificent than what we could even imagine for ourselves.
Yeah.
It's like a second of a preview to a movie that's so amazing that you couldn't have even imagined it for yourself.
And then the thing about it is that you might have 3 or 4 previews of life's coming attractions, you know, and they show it to me like looking at an actual rainbow. It's a spectrum of colors. And in some cases, some souls choose to go to the deepest, farthest end of that spectrum. They may want to play the villain, you know, and, you know, whatever part of that fragment that is in pain and denial and soulless or whatever, let them be where they are and be in awareness of them. But you don't have to associate yourself with them, because that's another teaching that has been spread like a virus in these communities, that, oh, you're supposed to be in this love and light with the other person too. And I was in the fault of that to myself. I got caught in that to myself, and I took myself out of that loop recently, where not everyone is going to join you in that joy and join you in where you are. You see what I'm saying? Because this is why we're here, because we had to come into the physical body to break down the elements of what is no longer necessary. It was necessary before. Now you can set yourself free by detaching from it and letting it go. And so one of the biggest things too, besides wanting to know the future, is the art of letting go.
Mm-hmm.
So what Spirit is guiding me to say to you, if you have anything in your possession that is over 3 years old that you really, really don't need, practice giving it away or letting it go. Practice it. See what is there for you to give away now. See what there is to leave it, because the vibration of everything around you, every physical possession, it's not in the same vibration for who you are becoming and what you have shifted through within the past maybe 2 weeks, 2 days ago. Okay. And even if you feel like, well, this is a momentum or this is something, da 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 da, it just may not necessarily serve you anymore, really, you know, because everything that you have carries energy from the past, and it carries pain from the past. It carries something. Because when we let go, we make more room for what? The new.
Yeah.
The new. You don't take anything with you when you leave out of this physical realm. And this, what we're embodying as far as the Christed, full embodiment of the Christ energy, is not where we're leaving out of our bodies. We're going to get to experience it while we're in the body, but the body is going to look different.
Mm.
We're going to get to see it from the lens of, oh my gosh, this is happening right before my very eyes. Oh my gosh, I'm a superhuman. Oh my gosh, I can fly. Oh my gosh, I can levitate. Oh, I can move objects. Oh, wow, that is just a part of the process to all of this. And even if someone else doesn't believe it or understand, it doesn't matter, because it's within your cellular memory. It's within your cellular memory. Every time when I look forward, because I see the trees, we're going to get taller. The trees are talking to us even louder. And I'm looking forward to when the lions are walking in my yard, because I've had several dreams where the lion just come right out of my kitchen and they were talking. and then the lion is walking in my yard, and the elephants and everything. It's beautiful. They're not locked up and we have to go to the zoo to see them. We're interacting and we're not in any fear. You know,
It's all about the fear.
Yeah.
yes.
That's what creates the reaction in that.
Yep.
I was watching a documentary on humans essentially who choose to live with dangerous animals. And I was just observing, right? I was just observing, and I knew, because everything was confirming to watch that, like this harmony, right? This harmony with all the kingdoms, and it's that in itself, that's part of the coming together too, and that harmony. All lands, all kingdoms, all species, all
yes.
plants,
and
elements.
Looking younger, and there's no more diseases of the mind, body, or the heart and soul. There's just no more of these diseases, no more aging. People think that you're supposed to age. No, you're not. No, you're not. That the aging is based on a reality that's attached to something that's slowed down, because we slow down our vibration when we are in the physical incarnation of the body. And so the body itself starts to slow down in energy, and it reflects outwardly, okay, based on thoughts and beliefs. You see? So when you are moving towards the embodiment of the light and the truth, okay, then what happens is your body will start to speed up, because that's how you're speeding up your vibration. And as you speed up your vibration, the cells of your body also starts to form and reform into something new. And it is in the truest essence of your soul. So instead of your body looking like the aged decay, it'll start to vibrate into the light particle from source creator. And then your body will start to be living from the soul instead of all the physical matter of the world. Okay, so that's why when Yeshua said, because I'm hearing the oversoul of the Christ, of Yeshua, the physical person who embodied the Christ energy, when he was talking about, I am the light, the way, and the truth, because the truth and the light leads the way back to source. You lead your way back to source creator in order to understand yourself. And it's so beautiful to hear that. It's like, it just touches my heart, you know, when it's just a constant receiving of these messages. And when you get back into that place, that's when you're back into that bubble, and you don't think about all the other stuff below. That's that's what it feels like, you know. I can feel it a little bit, but I'm not attaching to it, because I'm remembering all of that beauty and what that purity of the love is, because we've moved back into the raw, pure energy of ourselves and that light. And the rawness and the pureness of that light is in the spiritual matter and the physical matter. And when we merging the spiritual matter and the physical matter, that's the entire embodiment of the Christ. Yeah.
The thing that have been guided to share is in the Bible, it's very commonly known that, you know, Jesus cast out 7 demons from Mary Magdalene, and at least from what I have been shown, the origin of that was that Yeshua he unblocked Mary Magdalene's chakras. So it was like awakening her energy within herself. And that was how, at that time, people who were writing the Bible depicted what had happened. But it was actually the unblocking of the energy centers within her that will be opened.
Yes.
With that.
That's what the sacred masculine does.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And we in the feminine, you know, because we all embody both, but the part of your feminine energy that has to come fully awakened, fully in her power, is what assists the true sacred masculine template to come into the physical form, because a lot of them are holding on to that old template, and that's what we're busting through, because all of the stuff out there with the racism, division, all that stuff, that's all from the patriarchal system, the same system tied to white supremacy, the same system tied all the other different, I don't care whether House, Senate, this, that, all the names, it's still the same vibration. It's the same thing over and over again, no matter how many names they attach to it, this one against this one, same thing, same thing, same thing. So this is about separating yourself from it, so you're not too caught up in it, you're aware of it, and you move through that, those energy field of distortions where it's not attached to you any longer. You see what I'm saying? So I know sometimes people think that, well, I'm embodied in my light and I feel joy, I feel happiness, but I don't want to go venture back into there because I you know, but it's not about staying away from it, it's being able to venture through it, and then you're out of it at the same time. That's where you are empowering yourself, because that's what the dark matter is. We're moving into that dark matter, moving into that realm, but you're not allowing yourself, because that's where you get your power. Because if you feel your power is going to be only around love and light, and only, you know, that, you know, light, you know, people that are just dancing in the circle only, it's not
kumbaya.
Yeah, it's like it's not bringing in, how do I call it? Like that fire and that fullness of the expression of your soul. The fullness and the expression of your soul is when you're in the midst of the energy, that darkness, or, you know, how you call it. And there's so many sides of the spectrum of it, because it has been taught that anything dark is evil, or anything dark is scary. But then you also have the side of the spectrum of darkness that's evil, or it hurts itself and it goes into pain, because that's what it is. It's someone who's in pain that is not facing themselves, and therefore they act out their pain onto someone else, and they don't take responsibility, you see? And some of them, we can't save them, and you're not here to save them. You're here to be in observance of that pain itself. And if it is affecting you because someone else has been affected, then it's for you to look at it, because it's going to dig up something, bring up something to the surface that you didn't want to look at, or maybe a family member didn't want to look at. If the family member didn't want to look at it, Stop worrying about the family member that don't want to look at it. You look at it, because your transformation is bringing their transformation. That's why we're here, to bust that template, bust it wide open. I've been witnessing 3 of my family members have been paying more attention, interacting with me, and I haven't said anything to them. So the change that's happening and the transformation happening within me is happening within my bloodline. It's happening within my children. My son, Brandon, the one that was away in college, he has friends that are both black and white. And Damon and I were talking to him about the disparities of stuff. And he was like, oh, no, I don't have to think about that. And it so happens that one of his friends who I know very well, who lives in Long Island, he had a conversation with him, and he was noticing, his friend who's white was noticing that all the other people in Long Island that are, a lot of them are white, that's there, that they were having marches to do it, all white lives matter. And he was appalled and he was disappointed. And he told Brandon, I can't believe that I'm seeing this. And he said, wow, now I really know who is who. Okay. And this is a part of the process. You get to see who is who. You get to see the part of the spectrum to what's within others. So you get to differentiate where you are completing that circle and understanding the reason behind all Black Lives Matter. It's still you. It's a part of you. And if we keep separating it and going back to the spectrum of people who want you to think, no, only all lives matter because this is about all of us. It can't be all of us if the disparity and that side of the spectrum is still not in balance. It's out of balance. It's out of the field. We have to bring it back to center where all of us matter, because we're paying attention to the pain that's been embedded within us that's showing up outside of us now, you see? And so Brandon got into his own heated argument with his friends. And I was listening to some of it. And then Damon went downstairs to assist with his friends. But again, we're doing this on so many multi-layers. Allow it to unfold. Allow it to come through. Allow it to come out, okay? It's imperative, because every part of the earth where you reside right now, or anyone else, is energy that's embedded in the earth, that's come up and come out for the balance and the healing. There's no way that we're going to continue to come into harmony if we are not collectively coming together to bring pieces into place. You see, not everyone is ready to hear these gems and pockets that we're all talking about here. There are some people that would be very angry. It doesn't matter.
We're wrong. We need to shut up. We're ruining the plan. We're messing everything up. God fucking forbid, you know.
Yep. And
you know, something to note on that too, like when you're talking about, like, to really see things, a good way to look is who is detracting and who is dismissing. Like, you know, if you can find the detractors and you can see the dismissers.
Yes.
You know, that trying, you know, that are detracting from things, detracting from the situation, taking you out of your core.
Or covering it up and putting the Band-Aid over it instead of, because you see, the wound itself has to come out in a rawness as well. It has to come out in a raw energy, meaning that as you peel it back and it doesn't feel good inside, and once you face it and look at it itself and how it affects you and how it may affect others, because it's not just yourself, it's also others in joining in this. You know, it was amazing that I saw that Amazon had put up all Black Lives Matter on a thing, and people were actually getting upset. I was like, well, tough titties for them. So other people were like, well, I'm going to keep subscribing to Amazon. You see, that is what plays a part in how we bring it together, and that we feel supported too, just as much as any other subject matter. And I say we, meaning all the collective part of we, not based on the skin color we, the aspect of ourselves that originally we come from the spectrum of the Blackness. I will not deny myself on any part of myself with who I am. To deny yourself is what? If you deny who you are, then you cannot know yourself. You see? Anything you deny of yourself. And I can even go deeper, that when we think of I call them the deniers, the Judases and all that stuff, is that we have denied ourselves. Yeshua denied himself. He betrayed himself. We betray ourselves, we deny ourselves. You betray yourself when you keep ignoring. We betray and deny ourselves if we give that power and energy over to people into thinking that they're for us when they may not necessarily be. And we keep giving and giving and giving and giving and giving and giving and hoping they'll change and hoping they'll change, and they're not. And it's exhausting. It is tiring. We've had enough. So that's why we do it within ourselves, and we create the leadership within ourselves, and we create that bond within ourselves. And then when you're in that frequency, you're going to attract others who are, and anyone else outside of that spectrum, don't worry about them. They could easily eventually get it for themselves or not. Okay, so it's going to keep going in the layers and the waves and the waves and the layers and the fragments and what's broken and what's not together. And it's going to lead us into a different type of separation. That's a necessary separation, because then it's just going to keep regurgitating, and that is where you're unequally yoked. Okay, that part that talks about unequally yoked, that person is not matching in the same consciousness where you are. Don't go on a burnout because I'm not here where you have to say. Cut it. Cut your ties with that and go within, and spirit is going to lead someone who's connecting to you. Does it mean that you don't love the person that you're disconnected from? No, you still love them, and you understand that they are where they are, and leave it at that. You don't have to engage back and forth if you don't have to. But if there's a time to speak up, like Jen did, so proud of her. When you have to, you just got to, I got to, you get fired up. And that's your soul saying, hey, because I'm dismantling something that is not. When you have a right to be in righteous anger. You have a right to speak up. You have a right to have your voice heard, whether you're male, female, Black, white, French, Canadian, Indian, Indonesian. It doesn't matter. Children at 7 and 5 are speaking up and speaking out. They're not programmed. They are speaking out because their soul, they've been here before. Okay, they're in their expression. So let's honor them. Honor the child within you that did not get to speak up. If your parents are racist, even if you're in a Black family, white family, I know some Blacks that are racist within their family too. Okay, it goes deep and deep and deep and deep. And to think that this is not important during the ascension time, it is. To me, this is the biggest elephant in the room.
It's the key. It's like the key. It's like the key to ascension.
Yes, it's the key. That's what I heard too. That's exactly what I heard also. It is the key to ascension. Mm-hmm. Yep. It's the one that breaks the, I call it the, when it, I think we said you break the egg wide open, and you got to get in the inner part, the yolk, because what's the difference? What makes a difference if you got the egg and then you break the egg and there's nothing inside? So you got to get to the yolk. You got to get to that part of the, yourself and what has been created, the beginning stage of how you were created. And we started out as the eggs and the sperm. And the thing about it is that the egg itself carries DNA components, and so does the sperm. It does. And it goes back to centuries and lifetimes. There are many of you on here who already went through a higher alchemy from before. So don't think that you're starting all over again from scratch. Step into your power. Step into the greatness of who you are. You see, the more you unlock those layers and you move it back into that's the reason why you start to feel like a giant again, because we were giants, for goodness sake. We were giants. You see, we were not really in the expression of too much of the Lilliputians, No, we were bigger, grander in vision, grander in expression. And for some people, it may be fear, and that's only because of where they are, what do I call it? They're not in their own power, okay? They're not in their own power. They don't want to be left out. They can't, no matter how much they try to force themselves to blend in, but then they revert back because they don't have the keys and codes open up within them to connect to being in that place. You see, that's the thing. And the hidden keys and codes, it's not in any books right now. It's not on the internet. It's within you. And each one of us that connect at the time when we're supposed to is going to connect. And it's going to bring out more of that power, more of that connection. And it's like there is still another veil that's hidden to what's coming within the next 6 months, the next year to 2. So there's just glimpses that we're getting. And it's like when I felt and I knew something was coming in the month of June, July, I felt it. I said it before in, you know, my other videos and stuff like that. And I said it's something that's going to go deep within the solar plexus. I didn't know it had anything to do with what was coming through from George and Aubrey, but still the energy itself is what must happen when it comes to our ascension. So everything that happens, no matter what it is or who it is, please remember it is still coming from a greater part of God. It is still God stuff we're up to. It's God element, source creator. It's a part of creation to what is happening. So if you pay,
it's an aspect of creation. It's what needs to happen.
What needs to happen. There you go.
In order to manifest.
In order to manifest. Yep. So even if it's an individuation of someone that has a name, it's still a part of the plan. So why get hissy fit? So let the conspiracies and all the other stuff take place. Let it ride itself out. You know, it's like children in a playground that are fighting over who gets to, you know, throw the ball or who gets to do that. And one is playing tag and the other. I remember when I was in elementary school, everybody was on different playgrounds and there was always a fight somewhere or something somewhere. And it's a part of the progress that you make towards coming back to yourself, you know. And if someone has been held back from not expressing, let them be. Let them be. That's the reason why we've had so much of this suppression and the illnesses and diseases began, and the mental disorders and the mental breakdowns, because we did not allow people to express themselves. That's the issue. To understand the construct of the human body and how it stores and stores and stores and stores and stores and stores, and it's not expressing. And people are not used to this type of expression. They're not used to you speaking out and speaking up. If you're doing it on your own, good. It's supposed to be that way. Stop looking for someone to do it with you. Stop looking for someone else to solve this. You know, I think of Maria. How do you solve a problem like Maria? She had to solve it within herself, right? To return to her true love. And she had to take that action. And even though she went to the Abbey for direction, she had to go back to her heart. See? She had to do that. And what did she do? She made the choice of walking away from what no longer served her, to go back to love. And what was forming in her mind? Oh, what if this happens? What if I'm not good enough? What if? It's all those stories that we have created. And when she finally set herself free, what did she sing? The hills are alive with the sound of music. The hills are alive with the sound of my voice. The hills are alive with the beat and the rhythm of my heart.
What are you quoting? Are you quoting The Sound of Music?
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. I'm channeling, like I'm hearing. They're saying this to me. Yeah.
That's just such an interesting one coming from you. The Sound of Music. Okay.
The sound of music. Yeah.
I feel that though. It took me a minute. Okay.
Yeah. Wow. And I'm hearing other music in the background, but the music is what connects us back to while we're angry and upset and infuriated and you know, all of that stuff. It's amazing. You know, even like when
it's that wholeness, it's that wholeness, it's that embodied expression of no or this or yes or this is how I feel. Right? Yeah. This is me. This is how I feel. This is my truth. This is my expression. Yes.
Yes.
And it becomes that we, right? And then we become the we. One voice.
Yes. And the many voices.
The many voices.
The many voices. The voice.
The colors, the spectrums.
Yes. The spectrum of the voices. You know, even the birds have been singing around me a lot, and I'm hearing their voices too. I have a bear around in my neighborhood too that's eating out of the garbage container around me, and I'm hearing the bear's voice too. Um, the spiders, a lot of spiders coming around me with their voices too. See, is to be able to recognize that everything is moving in a vibration of frequency to the change. Even the, you know, the other species are sick and tired of the fucking shit too, and the cats, they're tired of it. Like, enough. That's why they were glad for the COVID. It's like, oh, these motherfuckers are in the house. Yeah, you can come out now. I'm just saying that to lighten it up, you know. But it's true though. It's true. It's really true. So we can come out of hiding and be the full spectrum of yourself, because you're bigger than your physical human body and the human limitations. And even what we thought were human limitations are really not, but that's just what you were taught, that you're only supposed to be this much, and that's where it stays. Because I don't want you to be better than me or bigger than me or brighter than me. There are 9-year-olds that have graduated from college already, for goodness sake. No age limit put on it, you know, or saying that, no, you know, if I wanted to be a doctor and I changed my mind and I'm a, you know, a holistic therapist, you know, because you're following your heart, you're following your path.
And we hold so much wisdom within that too. That shift.
Yeah, that's right. That is so correct. So Melissa says she needs more than tissue. Oh, yes. Yep, the ants too. The ants have been speaking to me too, crawling all around. Mm-hmm. Yes. So I am just in eternal gratitude. Eternal gratitude. Excuse me, for what is not only shifting, but what's coming in. Because everyone that's on here now is something that's leaving, and there's also something coming in at the same time, and it's moving through very like rapidly, you know. So because I think when Stacey and I were in communication, and I realized, and I was like, oh my God, I didn't even remember it was a lunar eclipse. Oh my gosh, I didn't remember it was a full moon, because I usually am greatly affected, you know, like really like something triggering or painful, you know what I mean? So it's not always going to be where you're always feeling the pain and the anger. Just know that it's moving in waves. Just allow it to move in waves. Just like when you're having a contraction, for those who are moms that have natural childbirth, you know, spirit, then God's spirit created it when you're having contractions, that you get a little in between break and then it comes again, you know, and you're like, you know, and you just breathe. Just breathe and breathe in all of the region from the upper to the lower region. Okay. And become centered. Walk around, jump, skip, hop, move the body in motion. Okay. Allow yourself to be in the timelessness. Timelessness. Let go of time. Let go of the day of the week. And even if it's something astrological at times, let that go too. Just give that moment of where you're not attached to anything and you're just remaining present. You're in the now. De la kui seneme. Tambala puti shana me keno itapa. Hisana na beketene kesu di shana bereke no idanama. Hisalamata kutu silamata kato shokotene mereke salanta kito se shakamien. I am so grateful for, I feel so much like Native American Indians. There's so much of them that's just gathering around that I'm feeling some ancestors that are also linked to Mama Africa, because I'm seeing a lot of tribes. There's a lot of tribal energy around. I'm hearing drums beating, the beating of drums. Drums are a part of both war and peace. They're saying drums are a part of moving the body, connecting to your feet. It also connects to beating of the drums, connects to our heart and opening of the heart and connecting with the vibration to the beat. So that's why they refer to I'm moving to the rhythm and the beat of my heart. So when we finish off, listen to something with drum beats, beating of drums. That is also going to align with everything that you heard today, to bring in that element of the drum beat. It's sort of like shamanic in a sense, and many of us have been shamanic. And I know that the shamanic energy is what we had connected to when we were in that ascension cycle before. And remember again that we're taking bits and pieces of who we are then and now. And so it's important to bring in that element of the shamanism, okay? The shamanic energy, the beating of the drum. That's what I'm hearing it very loud and clear. If any of you are able to get the feathers, stones, crystals, they're taking me to Brazil and to that region of the world in South America. There's many, when I say a lot of tribes that I'm hearing right now, a lot of tribes are just in the center right now of what is happening with us, because we're moving into, because we're still in the 6-6 energy. So it's like I'm trying to find something to go along with it, because they're leading me to that that shamanic energy and meditation. It's not even that it actually, it's more than just a meditation, but it's more like a customary, it's almost like a customary thing to when you're going to another layer of the ascension. That makes sense. That's what it feels like. And it would be familiar to you. And walking barefoot with it, okay? So that's what I'm hearing. It is a part of the ascension, and what it does is that it moves up through your chakras, and especially up to the womb chakra and the sacral root chakra, because we're grounding the light body into the physical body. You're going to feel tingling in your fingers and your feet, which has happened to me several times, where there's numbness in my feet, numbness in my fingers, and that's when you know that's when it's happening, okay? So I don't know if any of you ladies want to add something to what I just said, because I was just channeling that. Especially you, Jen, there's a lot of this Native American around you, a lot. And with Stacy and some of you on here, I'm feeling Brazil. I'm hearing Brazil and parts of East Africa. Or if your ancestors are from the Eastern, because it's like a quadrant that is opened. Okay, it's like a quadrant in this energetic field that's open to what's moving in the vibration. Because even just everything we talk about right now, this is the healing. This is the shift. Okay, this is the embodiment of what we are grounding on earth for the new. This is the process. No coincidence that this is the 6th episode on the 6th of June on the 6th day. And this is the 6th episode. And I didn't plan it. That's just the way Spirit did it. So it's still in the vibration of the shifts within our human element and also our spiritual DNA. Because the spiritual DNA that we have been created from is also transforming. It's not the same blueprint from them. You see? Makes sense?
Sharon, I did want to add, what I was shown earlier is not only are we grounding this energy, but we're also pulling up this earth energy, this deep core earth energy through our feet.
Yes.
So
yes.
Just to add that,
yes.
share that.
Yes, it is through our feet, because they show me a lot Join the to the feed. Okay, I found it. I finally found it. Yamala mata kido ita chano ita kitu ita malabati kitu sita show the benada. And now we can light something. That's right. They off 12 o'clock. Yeah. Nana la bo de benamana be. He said a lot of food. He said about the kitchen. Chena bodo ko de benana. Benamana. He said anabada pe geto robono. Sita chikoto ni benana pata kanile. Kita salam pada kutu sudah beda batu kumbi de kena malam kube beda pada kita ni tikito sudah mati kisah nanti ya bara tidak mereka koi me kisah nabe kita senda be keno kisah nabe keno wina mana batu kumbi ada mana kita sana kuti de beda batu kursi na beda be kita nama amo tu beda babu kita nebe kisah ndo ya mana be keno kisah tepe Pide kone mera pa kunde ba kende la bala pa kunde bela mani kitande be kunde bela ba istande ke onde bala kunde la mana meno mina mana mana no ne mina la na ke no ne mana na ke do mana la na ke to mina la katara bara kana mana ayana ma yo imane mana yo imane ke go imane ke do imane ke no ne ke do na mana na kare Ada kato selame da kato selame da boto dina da manada kito da mana unde da baro la 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 de kiro da na makara sera unde da bara ko de da boba ko ya maya na ni mone moya mana maya ne ro ya da ya bara ne viro da bara ai ne ro ne ro ke ro me ko ro min ne ro ko ne na da na ba Ayame kolimina bayimna yam nunde bayna barakutunde rabara rabaro bara ayna raro undara banda yamu yama ayame oyame oya Wow, it's like I felt so much of spirit just moving through the layers with us, and it's such a peaceful feeling. So I hope you have your feet just barefooted, with grounding, barefoot with the freedom of all the times that you've ran away from yourself, or you've ran away from someone, or if you ran away from something, as we release the illusion around running and the fear. You can't do it. Hold it down there. They say staying in the space of not running is where the warrior spirit begins and is embodied. And they are giving honor. They're giving honor. And these are not ancestors that necessarily weren't here. They're just like giving thanks for what they're witnessing on earth. And just giving honor, because they're saying we're bringing back honor to not only who we are becoming, but honoring the sacredness of motherland. And that is what this is, us honoring mother, continuously honoring mother and giving homage to her, because she gives us life, and the acknowledgement of what we give to ourselves and to her is what completes the circle. So it is. Yeah, I'm not seeing So what I just wanted to kind of just, I don't want to use the word ending, is just focus within your heart, your desires, your highest and deepest desires. Because I know usually they say, what is your deepest desires? But then also, excuse me, there's a high desire, and focus on that just within this next 10 to 20 seconds, and put it out there in intentions, in knowing that it is done. So let's just do that right now. 20 seconds. Thank you. And so it is. So be it. So be it. So be it. I say,
It is so.
it is so. That is the declaration. You don't have to go.
So it is.
And so it is. And so it is. So again, I want to thank Jen. If you would like to give your information out to how anyone may contact you, if they would like to have your services.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sharon.
Yes.
So I do work with people to assist them in dismantling any of the inner programming. They're digging in deep, connecting into their wounding, and learning how to release it out through hypnosis, as well as coaching and embodiment sessions. So I work on your energy field that way. And I also provide support in creating a daily practice for yourself, so you can continue to move through the energies with ease and with grace and within alignment. So it is a structured process. So I just wanted to share that. I am also running a Sacred Feminine Embodiment program coming up here from the summer solstice to the winter solstice. And that's kind of like the full scope program or process. And it's for those who would like to really get in alignment and get themselves out there in a very quick fashion. So be prepared for that. So if you'd like to have any more information on that, you can email me, jujubedula. That's JUJUBEDOULA @gmail.com. And then I can send you some information if you're interested in working with me directly.
And I'll put her information in the description box, so that way you'll have it to be able to receive her services. Yes. We're here.
This has been a long time coming.
Yes.
For us to share space and.
Yes. Very safe, sacred space, I call this.
Yes.
And
I am so in honor of you. You're just.
Oh, I'm in honor of you
so
too. It's just exciting for me. I have a just different way of how I look at it and how exciting it is for me and how it comes together collectively, you know, because I hold just love in my heart, you know, and I see beings for who they are, even if some of them piss me off or they tick me off or they're annoying or whatever. It's okay to
have
feel
a lot of patience.
I do. I have 5 kids, all different personalities, all different sides of the spectrum, you know. And when we're in our healthy spaces, when we're all arguing with each other, it's very healthy, very healthy. And then we go to laughter and we play games, and then we move into the next thing. Because even Charlie says that sometimes I come across like I have ADD because I just don't stay in that same, because my soul is just always experiencing everything all at once, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that, you know, and I don't attach to how anyone else may feel about me, but I know I receive more love than more than anything else because it's a reflection of me. That's right. So keep loving on yourselves, you know, and if you know anyone that may and will benefit from everything we spoke about today, please share the information. And because everything is what we also do collectively. And we never know, we could hear one word or one thing that's given and it just shifts and heals and empowers, especially the empowerment, you know, especially empowerment. Thank you, She's the Beast. And thank you, everyone who joined on here. I want to acknowledge you again, Jen, Melissa, Archer's Oracle, you're welcome. Hope I didn't miss anyone, but if I did, just know that it's not on purpose. I love you all. Stacy, I don't know if you want to share anything about what you do and if anything that you want to share to do with your services or, you know, just anything.
Sure. Yeah, one of the things that I didn't mention last time, because I do different types of healing services, and then I have an Etsy store which I sell. I call them spiritual products, so roll-ons, scrubs, sprays, etc. But I also do what I call like spiritual consulting readings, where I can also like read people's energy and just help you go through these processes too. And I also do numerology, which is fun. So.
And she does astrology too, because she was reading my chart. I was like, oh my God, wow. Yeah.
So, because I do find that when you incorporate the astrology piece, the numerology piece, and other pieces, it helps you get to that different layer to kind of help you put all those pieces together.
Yes.
So,
it does. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Everything that you can bring together, dream state, past life regression, what is showing up astrologically in your chart, so that way you're aligning with everything that's moving in the charts. Right now, there's so much energy moving in the charts that I'm like, whatever, because it's so much data. We're literally walking data, and we're all responding to each other at this, what I call it, specific time, specific degrees. Okay. Is why we're here, what is meant to be, you know what I mean, for the next stage of your layer of ascension, individually and collectively. So it is meant to be that we're on here. It's meant to be for whoever's on here listening, or whatever time frame that anyone else listens after. It is at that time and that precise moment. So that's why the more you keep remembering that even if something doesn't feel good or feel right, or what feels good or doesn't feel, it is in its perfect divine timing. It really is perfect. What you might look at as chaos and source creator looks at, you might think that source creator says, oh, this is such a terrible thing. Oh, I just need to do something about this. No, it's what creator desires, because source creator desires to observe all the experiences of itself through us, and we are the microcosmic aspect of that experience. I have my own conversations like, are you done now? Are you finished enjoying this experience? Because I'm ready to get fuck up out of this one. And I have those type of conversations. It frees it up and lightens it up for you, you know.
Yeah.
That's right. It's like becoming a child again, in that childlike state. And
having fun, joy, bliss,
yes,
ecstasy,
yes, exactly. I mean, exactly.
and creating change and like doing it all at the same time.
That's right. That is so correct. If you haven't jumped off of your bed lately, or your couch or your sofa, do it. Do something, you know, spontaneous and fun, and you'll be surprised at what you release. And it's 12:12 a.m. So that's the layer of that portal that we just entered. That's what I call it. It's a portal entry. It's a portal entry. It's like the old African, I don't say it's old, I think it still exists. I believe it does exist. Is when we jump the broom, we jump to another dimension. Okay. We jump dimensions. We jump dimensions. Sometimes one foot is in one dimension and another foot, and then the arm might be in another dimension. Then the head is in another dimension. For real. You could feel it. Like, you literally can feel it in your body.
Yeah, that multi-dimensional space. Yeah, it's now you're saying it. I experience it like I can. Oh God. It's very pineal. It's third eye for me. I feel like I experience it most. It's just a frequency that hits there.
And you can feel yourself literally, like you feel your body, but you also feel the other higher aspect of yourself. And when you're detached from it, and it's also reviewing all these other layers of experiences, you know what I mean? And it's all an observation, because we are in a life review. We're in a constant life review during this time. Nothing is going to be the same. Nothing. Got to let go of that illusion, thinking that everything's going to go back to the way it was. You're going to be really listening to Barbara Streisand, The Way We Were, and it's fast. I love Barbara. She's a realist too. Anyway.
I don't want to go back to that. No thanks. I don't want to go back to where we were.
That's the only thing we're going to be having a memory, is her song of The Way We Were. That's it. That's all The Way We Were is going to be. So, you can hear some Barbara Streisand, The Way We Were, and that's it. That's as far back as it goes, because even when you're going through the review and you're regressing back into a timeline, immediately source creator is pulling you back into a future and present at the same time. So that's the reason why you're feeling like you're in so many directions, because you can't stay there for too long, even if you want to. And then you find yourself like feeling discombobulated at times. It's okay. It's a part of the process, because that has to do when you're letting go of an attachment that you have to an older timeline. And that's it. And you also may find yourself being in versions of yourself throughout these multi-layers of timelines that's playing itself out from the 1600s or the 1400s back to the 2020. Because that's what we're doing. Why it looks and feels so chaotic, because it's all these layers of realities that are playing itself out. So it's like, can I now take my foot and step out of that reality? But you're not only doing it with your physical body, but you're doing it in your mental body and your emotional body. That's the key. That's one of the keys. Yeah. So.
Your spirit body too.
Yes. That's the spirit body. I refer to like the etheric body. It's like that's the closest to the physical body that it could ever be, and that's where a lot of the attachments are when most people cannot break free, because it's tied to your etheric body. And your etheric body that you're attached to is how you are connected first, or I would say the most, with your twin, because it's like your body and everything is responding to the emotions and the triggers that flows back to the etheric body, and then your body's responding back to that etheric sense of who you are. I hope that makes sense. So it's intricate, but it makes sense, you know. So it's almost like when you say why you feel scattered all over the place, because you might feel like your brain is like rattled and in pain in the mental space, and then your heart feels broken. That's the emotional body. You see? And then if the throat chakra is not activated and you're choking and feeling all that stuff in your throat because you're not expressing yourself, and then you stay attached in the emotional body that is forming more of that pain because you're not speaking up and speaking out. And then it becomes dreary and you're dragging along. And then you have the headaches and all the pain and the stuff that's coming and pulsating because of all of the energy placed in the brain and the mind with what you're taking in. So instead of, or alternately, don't give it a second thought. Just be, instead of trying to make it make sense. See, we got to sometimes be in the no sense. Makes no sense at all, because that's a zero. Leave it at zero more than you have with, oh gosh, it has to be logical. Oh, it has to make sense. Oh, you know, let me look it up. Just enjoy that gift and that what's been given to you in that moment without attaching it to another experience or another perception. Because every time you go into the brain again with what you're perceiving, you're adding more layers of something that's probably not even existing, and then you create more realities of paranoia, and then you go into the conspiracy stuff and you're like, oh shit, you know, it really is happening. So if you really believe it's going to happen, then guess what? And it does happen, because you're making it real. You're making it happen. You're bringing that reality to your forefront of your experience because you believe. Yes, Neptune behavior. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It creates more realities and more realities. And Jen and I were talking about this, but when I didn't talk about it,
needs to stop. And it needs to stop.
Yeah, the attachment of the deeper layers of the conspiracies, that it's a part of the programming that comes from the supremacy and all the other stuff. And it creates more layers and more layers. And then it takes you deeper and deeper and deeper in the hole. And then all of a sudden you're like, but it is real. You know, like my aunts, I remember when they were like, oh, you're doing this and this and that. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And they just kept going on. And I said, because I told them that's your reality. That's what you're perceiving. Because at some point I started to question myself, like, fuck, am I really doing it then after all? I'm like, no, I'm not. Fuck that. No, it's not real. That's not real. So I cracked the case wide open, broke up that sucker into pieces. And I was like, be gone. And that's when she lived happily ever after. That's what living happily ever after is. It has to be where you're saying, fuck that shit. No, it's not mine. It's not my stuff. That's not my stuff. You have to give yourself permission for that, though. You see? And at the same time, you understand where it's coming from, because every person, every part of your family, lineage, they have to break it down in their own way. And they may believe what they're seeing is right and what they're experiencing is right.
Everybody needs their own process.
They have to go through their own process. Exactly.
And you can catalyze it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. The more embodied you are.
Yep. Yep. That's right. Wow. So it has been such an amazing experience, because I know we're at the almost 4-hour mark.
Sharon, you weren't lying when you said that.
I wasn't lying, but it doesn't feel like it, right? I told Paris, I said, I don't know if we could squeeze this show into 1 hour, because I told her, I said, you know what? I'm looking at this show as like when you're watching a movie and you have part 1 and part 2, which has never been done before. And, you know, we've gone through the experiences of things that we see and watch, and we entertain ourselves. But when we're in this instance, for me, this is exciting. This has been the ultimate dream that I've had, to analyze and bring in all the data and put the pieces together so it makes sense. And it's like doing a crossword puzzle, you know, and you're in Simon's, what do you call it? Not Simon Says, what's the other thing called? Simon, you know, when you got to follow the light when you're pressing it and so on. And every time there's always something that, and that gives you a clue, and there's more clues and more clues. And it's like really opening the Pandora's box, the yellow brick road, all the stories that have been in existence, regardless of what it means or not mean, it's against or for, it is a part of the alchemy. You cannot be in that state of alchemy if you don't have all the polarities involved. It is a part of it. There is no escaping it. None. None at all. I think it would be a rare instant for anyone, which there have been people that just come in this reality and they just don't experience as much. They could just be like, I think of the Matrix where they just say, okay, put in this program which just knows how to turn on the bike and ride the bike. Put in the program where just people are just walking up and down looking like robots. And that's just a part of the program. And they play a part of the program. Is, can I now decipher what is the truth for me, no matter what reality is showing up? See? And can I detach from it? Or am I going to be distracted? Like when Neo saw the woman walk by, she was all sexy with the red lipstick. You know what I mean? Are you going to allow yourself to be enticed, or you get enticed for a split second and you catch yourself and like, okay, I'm done with that. I know where I am. I know who I am, no matter what. And that you don't have to always separate yourself from the crowd and whatever is a part of the matrix, but you don't have to be of it. You don't have to attach to it or be a part of it. You're in it, but you're not a part of it. And you're able to separate the wheat from the what? The shebang shaft. That's right. So 1222, that's 12222. Oh my gosh, they would go on and on. So anyway.
Yeah, we could. Yeah.
I know. So, but anyway, I'm going to come back to loving myself and loving Jen and Stacy for their time and our time and everyone else's time. And I am in eternal gratitude as always. I never know again when I'll be back on again, because I am in divine flow. There is no script. There's no special that it must be and have to be. This is where the flow is, where we be in the practice of divine flow. Be in an element of surprise always. Don't you love to receive surprises? Then be in the energy that there's a surprise every day, that you're ready, but you're not attached, like having the lamps ready, but you're not attached. And that you're not looking to say that something is coming to save me, that we're already in the energy of not saving ourselves, but we are having the opportunity to be ourselves. Okay, we are the saviors. We are the light of our universe, and connecting to the other universal consciousness of the all there is. So be it. So be it. I love you all, and I'm looking forward to the next time that we meet again, and that we are going through more upgrades. Yeah, baby. Enjoy the ride. This is Nitro. So peace and love to you all.
Everybody.
Wow.
Thank you.